Chapter 108. How could Yi Joga wait for tomorrow? She used the Yi clan's special signal to summon Yi Yu. After about the time it took to drink a cup of tea, Yi Joga's window was lightly knocked. She opened the window and there was no one outside. If it was someone else, they would have been scared half to death. Yi Joga skillfully said, "Come in." Something brushed past the window, and then Yi Yu appeared in Yi Joga's room, revealing a white, jade-like beautiful face. "Big miss, why are you looking for me?" Yi Yu had been cultivating and hadn't been summoned by Yi Joga for a long time. "Help me keep an eye on the Su clan. If anything happens, report to me immediately," Yi Joga said, and then added seriously, "Keep an especially close eye on Old Man Su." Yi Yu was a bit shocked. Although he was in closed-door cultivation, he knew that today was the day Old Man Su was going to hold a banquet to welcome guests. Did Big Miss Yi mean that someone would dare to cause trouble at this time? However, he saw Yi Joga's serious expression and didn't dare to ask. He nodded and said, "Okay, I'll go now. Be careful, don't let them find you," Yi Joga said. Although Yi Yu's cultivation had improved a lot, Old Man Su was still a spirit master, so he had to be careful. "Big Miss, don't worry. I know what to do," Yi Yu said and disappeared into the night. That night, Yi Joga couldn't sleep well. She kept calling out for Zishang in her heart, but didn't get any response. Yi Yu didn't come back for the whole night and didn't know what was going on with the Su clan. Before the sun rose, Yi Joga couldn't lie down anymore. She got up and looked in the mirror to find that her face was unspeakably ugly. Her eyes looked like they had been punched twice. Pearl fetched water and saw Yi Joga's dispirited appearance. She was shocked and quickly asked, "Big Miss, what's wrong? Didn't you sleep well last night?" "Nothing." Yi Joga took the warm cloth that Pearl handed over and wiped her face. She was really worried about the Su clan and was thinking whether to look for Dongfang Ke to help her gather information or Wan Xiang. Jinju thought that Yi Joga was worried about the traitor in the Yi mansion. So she said, "Eldest Miss, I went to the sprinkler room last night and asked carefully." During this time, 7th concubine's maidservant, Yuan Yang, often inquired about news in the sprinkler room. She liked to ask about our purple forest garden the most, so they all suspected that it was Yuan Yang who went through the garbage in our yard. 7th aunt. Yi Joga raised his eyebrows. He didn't expect it to be her. As a concubine, why didn't she want to fight for power and favor with Su Yufeng? Why did she come to oppose her? Could it be that she was a spy that the Empress had placed in the Yi mansion? "I heard that 7th concubine's cultivation base has improved again recently, and she's ready to become an intermediate spiritualist." Jinju revealed another piece of gossip. She advanced again? Yi Joga was shocked. She remembered that 7th aunt had entered the family 2 years ago, when she had just become a rudimentary spiritualist. Although her cultivation base had improved a lot with the help of Yi Yuxuan's medicinal pills these years, there should still be a long way to go before she became an intermediate spiritualist, unless she got a good medicinal pill that could improve her cultivation base while crying. However, with Yi Yuxuan's stingy character, it was impossible for him to give it to her. It seemed that this 7th aunt had a lot of secrets. Yi Joga was contemplating when the voices of 2 young maids suddenly came from outside the door. "Eldest Miss, slaves Yudi and Hua Dai have something to report." "Yudi, Hua Dai." Yi Joga came back to his senses and thought about it. He remembered that there were indeed 2 such maids in his courtyard. They were the descendants of the Yun family's elders. Their aptitudes were good. Mother Qing had recently begun to let them train their bodies. "Let them in," Yi Joga ordered Jinju. "Yes." Jinju bowed and went out to bring in 2 young maids who were about 12 years old. The one wearing green clothes was Yudi. Her eyes were quite elegant, and it could be seen that she was a calm and steady person. The one wearing pink clothes was Hua Dai. The corners of her mouth were curved like a smile. At first glance, it could be seen that she was a clever girl. Both of them had very mixed pseudo-spiritual roots. Although they could not advance to spirit practitioner, they had no problem in training their bodies. Slaves Yudi and Hua Dai greet Eldest Miss. The 2 maids knelt down and bowed to Yi Joga. "Get up." Yi Joga signaled Jinju to help the 2 young maids up. Then he said, Our purple forest park does not accept this kneeling ceremony. You two are still young. Don't kneel so easily. Otherwise, your knees will suffer in the future. Yes. Yudi and Hua Dai bowed obediently, but in their hearts, they were very happy. They had long heard that eldest miss was a generous master. Today, it seemed that it was true. You two just said that you had something to report. What is it? Ijuga asked. Replying to eldest miss, this slave just heard something from the gatekeeper. It said that a corpse suddenly fell from the sky from Lord Su's house on our street. His family was so scared that they immediately reported it to the authorities. Now, the corpse has been sent to the Ministry of Justice. The people from the Ministry of Justice invited Master to take a look. Needless to say, this corpse was a Su family guard. This Lord Su is really a wonderful person. Ijoga couldn't help but laugh. Yesterday, the quarrel between her and Old Man Su should have been heard by everyone on the street. Everyone else gave face to Yi Yuxuan and returned the corpse of the Su family guard. Only this Lord Su wanted to send it to the Ministry of Justice. Clearly, he wanted to make things difficult for Yi Yuxuan. I heard that Madam is so angry that she is bedridden. These few days, she has been taking medicine to protect her pregnancy. Hua Dai said boldly. The corner of Yi Juga's mouth hooked up. He didn't have any sympathy. Su Yufeng came back and caused trouble. She deserved to get sick from anger. Zhenju, tell the carriage house to prepare a horse for me. I want to make a trip to the Ministry of Justice. Yi Zhoga believed that with Wan Ziang there, the matter of the Su family guard would not be easily settled. She could go over and help out. Yes. Zhenju nodded and asked, does eldest miss want to bring people out? When Yudi and Hua Dai heard this, their eyes immediately lit up. Let them go out with me. Yi Zhoga usually didn't like to bring people out. But now that she thought about it, it was necessary to cultivate some capable trusted aides. Thank you, eldest miss. The two servant girls immediately bowed to Yi Zhoga with joy. Eldest miss, do you want to tell Mother Qing? Zhenju asked in a low voice. Yi Zhoga said. These servant girls had always been under Mother Qing's control. She did need to be told. Yes. The two servant girls could already imagine Mother Qing's nagging. They drooped their shoulders and walked out. Yi Zhoga suddenly found it a bit funny. It seems that I'm not the only one who is afraid of Mother Qing's nagging. When Yi Zhoga was ready to leave, Yudi and Hua Dai walked out of Mother Qing's room. The two of them seemed to have been reprimanded. Their little faces that were full of joy just a moment ago became very calm. They didn't dare to say a word. Yi Zhoga was very satisfied with this. After all, she was going out. It was good for the two servant girls to be more steady. She brought the two servant girls to the carriage and walked towards the Ministry of Justice. Chapter 109. Yi Zhoga went to the Ministry of Justice and said he wanted to see Wan Ziang. The guard at the door went in to make the announcement. Unexpectedly, Wan Ziang and Bai Songling came out to greet him. Miss Yi, why didn't you say you were coming? Bai Songling asked. I heard that someone from the Ministry of Justice came to identify my father's body, so I wanted to come and see. Where is my father? Yi Zhoga asked. Bai Songling heard this and suddenly said with a strange expression, didn't you hear that something happened to the Su family? What happened? Old Man Su didn't die, did he? I heard that Old Man Su drank too much last night and suddenly didn't wake up. We invited a lot of spiritual doctors to see him, but it was useless. Your father has already rushed over. Bai Songling said gloatingly. They all heard that Old Man Su brought Su Yufeng back to the Yi family to bully Yi Zhoga yesterday. That was why they wanted to use the body of the Su family's guard to do something. They didn't expect that Old Man Su would die before they could do anything. I see. Yi Zhoga was slightly relieved. It was good that he didn't die. Miss Yi, Old Man Su fell ill after making trouble at your house yesterday. I'm afraid that the Su family will blame it on you. You have to be careful. Wan Ziang said. He had been investigating the Su family and knew that they were unreasonable scoundrels. It was possible that they would slander Yi Zhoga. Different situations call for different actions. With Zishang around, the Su family should be the one to be careful. But Miss Yi, you don't need to worry too much. The cause of old man Su's illness is still unknown. I guess the Su family doesn't have time to care about other things. Bai Song Ling comforted her. Yes. Yi Joga was glad that old man Su was only in a coma. If he really died suddenly, the Su family would definitely bite people everywhere like a mad dog. This is not a good place to talk. Why don't we go to the Yu Wu tea house? Bai Songling had something to ask Yi Joga. Okay. Yi Joga also had something to ask them for help. Miss Yi, get in the carriage first. I will go back and tell them to send the body back to the Su family. Bai Songling squinted her eyes and smiled. It'll make the Su family more trouble. Yes. Yi Joga nodded. Bai Songling and Wan Ziang went to the Misty Rain tea house together after explaining everything. Bai Songling waited for the waiter to serve tea and snacks and told him something about the Su family. Then she asked Yi Joga, by the way, Aunt Hongxiu sent a message yesterday saying that Nanny Su was missing. She couldn't find her in the entire harem. She guessed that something might have happened to Nanny Su. I wonder if Miss Yi has heard of this news? Ever since Yi Joga revealed Wet Nurse Su's identity as an evil cultivator, Aunt Hongxiu had been paying close attention to her every move. Therefore, when they found out that she was missing, they immediately spread the news. Bai Songling compared the time and found that the day when Mammy Su disappeared was the day when Yi Joga went into the demonic beast forest to collect herbs. She had some guesses in her heart. I haven't heard of this before. Do you think the Empress sent Nanny Su to do something else? Yi Joga said casually. She was not worried that others would suspect her. After all, with her cultivation, it was impossible for her to kill Nanny Su no matter how she looked at it. She just needed to hide the demonic weapon, the Thunder Snake illusionary whip. Hearing what you said, I remember something. The Ministry of Penalty just received the news from Hapu County this morning, saying that female corpses were also found there 10 days ago. However, the courier station they sent the news was suddenly destroyed that day, so the Ministry of Penalty didn't get the news until now. Bai Songling had planned to go to Hapu County with Wan Ziang today to have a look. Do you suspect that these female corpses were done by Nanny Su? Yi Joga asked. It shouldn't be her. The case in Hapu County and that in Heong County should be done by the same person. When the accident happened in Hapu County, Nanny Su was still in the palace. However, even if it wasn't Nanny Su, the murderer must be related to her. Maybe they are in cahoots with Su Junqing. But I don't know why they appeared in Thunder Country. Bai Songling had been thinking about this recently. The Su family, the Empress, and the Crown Prince are all related to the evil cultivator, which means that the evil cultivator wants something from them. Wan Ziang added. Yi Joga subconsciously thought of the treasure map. At this time, she suddenly felt something strange on the chair to her left. It seemed that someone had accidentally touched her seat. Her heart skipped a beat as she knew that Yi Yu had arrived. She could even feel Yi Yu's messy breath. He must have thought of the treasure map. Yi Joga was about to find an excuse to leave. Unexpectedly, Wan Ziang also noticed Yi Yu's strange behavior. He shouted to the corner behind Yi Joga, "Who's there?" Bai Songling reacted very quickly. With a flash of green light in her hand, a green vine shot out instantly. "Don't do it. He's one of us." Yi Joga raised his hand to stop Bai Songling's vine. Wan Ziang, who was preparing a fireball, suddenly stopped and asked in confusion, "One of us? You? Come out." Yi Joga turned to the corner and said. The shadow in the corner twisted, and Yi Yu's figure appeared. The Yi family? Unexpectedly, Wan Ziang recognized Yi Yu at a glance. "Brother Wan, how do you know him?" Yi Joga asked curiously. "The Crown Prince and the Su family have been looking for him. Even we have heard about it." Bai Songling and Wan Ziang worked in this field, so they knew a lot more than ordinary people. Why are the Crown Prince and the Su family looking for him? Yi Joga pretended to ask. She wanted to test whether Bai Songling and Wan Ziang knew about the treasure map. "You'll have to ask young Master Yi," Wan Ziang said. It seemed that he didn't know anything. Yi didn't say a word. He completely ignored Wan Ziang and Bai Songling. Ahem. It's fine if young Master Yi doesn't want to say it. I've heard that the Yi family's invisibility technique is extraordinary. It's really amazing today. Bai Songling saw the awkward atmosphere and quickly tried to smooth things over. You flatter me. Yi Yu only replied with 2 words for Yi Zhouge's sake. Wan Ziang looked at Yi Yu and suddenly said, Are you interested in going with me to investigate the whereabouts of the evil practitioners? He was too famous. Most of the time, the clues would be destroyed when he went to the place where the murder happened. He needed a partner to secretly cooperate with him. In the past, it was Bai Songling who cooperated with him. But recently, there were many things in Prince Dongling's mansion. So Bai Songling couldn't leave. He didn't like the people in the Ministry of Justice, so he turned to Yi Yu. Not interested. Yi Yu refused coldly. He didn't want to have anything to do with the people in the Ministry of Justice. If we can catch this evil practitioner, we might be able to find evidence that Su Junqing practices evil arts. When Wan Ziang said this, he looked at Yi Zhouge. He could see that Yi Yu trusted Yi Zhouge a lot. If Yi Zhouge spoke for him, Yi Yu would probably agree. Chapter 110. I want to talk to Yi Yu alone, Yi Zhouge said calmly. Okay. Wan Ziang and Bai Songling left the room immediately. Miss, you don't have to say anything. I won't go with them, Yi Yu said before Yi Zhouge could speak. He hated Su Junqing, not the heretic. Not even to save your sister? Yi Zhouge sighed. He didn't tell Yi Yu about Yi Yunji because he was worried it would affect his cultivation. But Wan Ziang was right. Su Junqing was too difficult to deal with. It was rare to find an arrogant and brainless heretic. If he could find him, he could get more clues. What do you mean, miss? Yi Yu's heart trembled. Sorry. I've been hiding it from you. Yi Zhouge told him what happened in the basement and said, If what the heretic said is true, Su Junqing should have sent your sister to a heretic who is more powerful than him. Yi Yu's face turned pale. The red mole between his eyebrows seemed to have lost its color. Then his body trembled and his breath became chaotic. There was a trace of blood at the corner of his mouth. Yi Zhouge quickly helped Yi Yu to sit down. She felt his pulse and found that his cultivation had reversed. He was showing signs of qi deviation. She quickly used acupuncture to help Yi Yu adjust his qi. Yi Yu vomited a mouthful of blood. Then he regained his breath. Fortunately, he had been cultivating recently. Even if his mind became chaotic, he could quickly protect his dantian. I didn't dare to tell you before because I was afraid you couldn't stand it. Yi Zhouge sighed. Su Junqing was difficult enough to deal with. Now that Yi Yunji was in the hands of a heretic who was more powerful than Su Junqing, it was even more difficult to save her. What was more difficult was that they didn't even know who the heretic was. Where was he? They knew nothing. Yi Yu sat in the same place and said slowly after a while, Tell Wan Ziang that I'm willing to investigate the heretic with him. His sister was his only family in this world. Even if she did something irreparable, he should be the one to punish her on behalf of the family instead of letting her fall into the hands of the heretic. So no matter how difficult it was, he had to do it. Okay. Yi Zhouge knew that Yi Yu would agree, so he went out and called Wan Ziang in. Wan Ziang didn't know what Yi Zhouge said to Yi Yu, but looking at his pale face and gloomy eyes, he knew that it must have been something very painful. He could not help but think of himself, and felt a sense of empathy for Yi Yu. The subtle enmity between him and Yi Yu from before had dissipated quite a bit. When does Big Brother Wan plan to set off to investigate the evil cultivators? Yi Zhouge asked. The sooner the better, Wan Ziang said. Bai Songling was in charge of the Ministry of Justice, so there was no need for him to worry. We will depart in an hour, Yi Yu said coldly. So fast, Bai Songling said with a bitter face. Wan Ziang was considered a pillar of the Ministry of Justice. If he suddenly left, he would be very busy. All right, we'll pack up and leave immediately. Wan Ziang nodded. He was very appreciative of Yi Yu's swift and decisive actions. That's right, Big Brother Wan. You don't need to hide this evil cultivator investigation anymore. It's best to spread this matter, the bigger the better. Yi Zhouge said. Why? Wan Ziang asked confusedly. If we don't make it bigger, how can we take the blame for Su Junqing in the future? Yi Zhouge was smiling, but her eyes were terrifyingly cold. She could not kill the people of the Su family because it would be very troublesome. Therefore, she could only think of ways to make them suffer more than death. If old Master Su knew that his most beloved and trusted grandson, Su Junqing, was an evil cultivator whose hands were stained with blood and who sold girls in a brothel, he would probably jump up even if he was in a coma. Wan Ziang thought for a while, then nodded slowly and said, I see. They had been suppressing this matter before because they were worried that if it was spread out, the people would panic, and some lawbreakers would take the opportunity to disturb the people or swindle and collect money. But Yi Zhuge was right. If they did not make it bigger, Su Junqing was likely to escape even if they had something on him in the future. Water could carry a boat, but it could also capsize it. If they wanted to completely destroy the Su family, they had to make use of public opinion. Wan Ziang and Yi Yu had to hurry to Hepu County to investigate. So they planned to leave first and let Bai Songling take Yi Zhuge back. Before they left, Yi Yu told them one thing. Great-grandfather Su hadn't suddenly fainted when he was drunk, but when he went to the toilet. It was said that he was covered in feces from head to toe and almost suffocated to death in the toilet. What a disgusting piece of good news, Bai Songling said to Yi Zhuge with a smile. I don't think I can eat today. Yi Zhuge smiled and then said to Bai Songling, Brother Bai, I want to ask you to help me investigate someone. Who? Bai Songling asked. The seventh concubine of the Yi family, Mu Xianglan, 20 years old, a beginner stage with spirit practitioner. Yi Zhuge carefully told him the information about the seventh concubine. Why do you want to investigate this seventh concubine? Bai Songling felt very strange. There should be no conflict between father's concubine and her. I suspect that she is a spy placed in the Yi family by the Empress. Yi Zhuge roughly told him that the seventh concubine had been monitoring him. Her Majesty's hand really extends too far. She even grabs the backyard of other people's house. Don't worry. I will definitely help you investigate this matter. Bai Songling immediately took it to heart when she heard that it was related to the Empress. Thank you. Yi Zhuge knew that it was right to ask Bai Songling for this matter. His hatred for the Empress was the same as Yi Yu's hatred for the Su family and Wan Ziang's hatred for the evil cultivator. After Yi Zhuge and Bai Songling said goodbye, they got on the carriage. He saw that Yu Dai and Hua Dai were sitting obediently in the car. They didn't ask too many questions and behaved quite well. Yi Zhuge was quite satisfied with them and decided to go back and say good things about them to Mother Qing. When she returned to Purple Forest Garden, she happened to see Mother Qing walking in the yard. She suddenly frowned. Who let you out? This old servant is about to go moldy, so I want to go out for a walk. Mother Qing smiled flatteringly. It's better to go moldy than to leave a root cause of illness. You are already so old. Do you still want me to teach you? Yi Zhuge was really angry. This old servant knows her mistake. Mother Qing said with a bitter face. Usually, she was the one nagging others. This time, she was caught by Yi Zhuge and severely reprimanded. She was also complaining in her heart. The two servant girls, Yu Dai and Hua Dai, covered their mouths and snickered. Yi Zhuge turned around and ordered them, help Mother Qing in to rest. The two servant girls hurried over and intimately held Mother Qing's hand. They smiled flatteringly and said, Mother Qing, let us help you in. Yi Zhuge then went to the alchemy room. The fat black rat was still sleeping in her animal skin bag. This fat rat was in a state of deep sleep for most of the day. It was almost comparable to Zishang. You dare to compare this sovereign with this rat. You have guts. Zishang's lazy voice sounded. Chapter 111. Yi Zhuge didn't expect Zishang to wake up at this time. After a moment of daze, she immediately asked, Tell me, what did you do to old man Su? Nothing, I just sealed his 5 senses. Zishang said faintly, That's too cruel. Yi Zhuge was speechless. She knew Zishang was cruel, but she didn't expect him to be this cruel. Sealing one's 5 senses was isolating one's reaction to the outside world. Unable to speak, unable to move, unable to feel anything. But one's mind was still very clear. This feeling was as terrifying as sinking into the darkest sea. Old man Su was probably going crazy. I'm already very kind. If they were in the Yao clan, He had thousands of ways to make Old Man Su's life worse than death. Then I thank you on his behalf. Yi Joga said sincerely. I helped you vent your anger. Don't you want to reward me? Zishang appeared and pulled Yi Joga into his arms. Did I beg you to go? Yi Joga pushed him away very coldly and heartlessly. This guy made her unable to sleep well last night, and now he had the face to ask for a reward. Giving him 2 slaps was more like it. Little Juga? Zishang's slender eyebrows slightly raised. That pair of dark purple eyes were like amethysts hidden deep in a mine, flashing with a mysterious light as he stared deeply at Yi Joga. Yi Joga saw that Zishang's beautiful face was now a little pale, and she couldn't help but feel a trace of guilt. Zishang had to sleep for a few days to pass his power to her. This time, dealing with Old Man Su must have consumed even more Yao energy. No matter what, he was trying to help her, and it wasn't right for her to be so heartless to him. Take the reward. Yi Joga extended his index finger and said very generously, suck as much as you want. Zishang looked at Yi Joga's slender and white index finger and revealed a trace of a smile, as beautiful as a blooming epiphyllum in the night. This was the first time Yi Joga voluntarily let her suck his blood. Although it wasn't what he wanted, it was better than nothing. Zishang put Yi Joga's finger in his mouth, bit it with his sharp snake teeth, and gently sucked. Yi Joga was originally worried that he would cause trouble again. Seeing that he was obediently sucking blood, he felt a little uncomfortable, so he tried to find a topic to talk about. Do you have any way to make me stronger? This incident with Old Man Su had given her a wake-up call. She was considered powerful among rudimentary spiritualists, but there were stronger beings. She had to keep improving. Yes, as long as you dual cultivate with this sovereign can immediately make your cultivation soar. Zishang sucked on Yi Joga's finger, his eyes staring straight at her, indescribably charming. Change it. Yi Joga knew that this pervert was full of bad ideas. No more. Zishang let go of Yi Joga's finger, stroked her head and said, you don't have to worry too much. This sovereign will not let you face such a situation alone again. I beg you, please leave me alone. Yi Joga didn't want Zishang to suddenly go on a killing spree, causing her to be hunted down by the entire human race. Zishang's good intentions were treated as ill will, and his mood immediately turned sour. Both of his hands clasped onto her slender waist, wanting to deal with her. I'm warning you, don't provoke me. Yi Joga raised her knee and struck Zishang's lower abdomen. She definitely wouldn't let this guy get his way so easily like last time. Just when the two of them were confronting each other, sparks flew in all directions. A tender voice came from under their feet. Pippi. Yi Joga looked down and met with a pair of big watery eyes. The fat black rat took out 2 red fruits from its small bag and looked at Zishang with a fawning look, as if it was offering a sacrifice to a god. What is this? Yi Joga looked at the fruits that were emitting a faint fragrance, and instinctively knew that it was something good. Sacred origin fruit, it can quickly recover all of one's origin energy. He needed this thing right now, and this little thing was quite filial. Pippi. The fat black rat pushed the red fruit towards Zishang. That fawning look made Yi Joga really unhappy. Zishang stretched out his finger and pointed. The 2 red fruits rose up and flew into his hand. The fat black rat heaved a sigh of relief at first, then immediately puffed out its fat chest, and glanced at Yi Joga with a contemptuous and a little proud look. It looked as if the boss had found a backer, and little brother had to follow him. I really want to hit it, what should I do? Yi Joga felt his hands itch. She had been raising it for the past few days, and it went to fawn over Zishang without even paying the food expenses. Did it know who its master was? Whatever. Zishang threw the fruit into its mouth. The fat black rat suddenly looked like it was struck by lightning. You said that you would protect me after receiving the fruit. What happened to the most basic trust between beasts? Fat black rat. Have you figured out who's the boss? Yi Joga grabbed the fat black rat by the back of its neck and brought it in front of him. Pippi. The fat black rat cried out aggrievedly, and covered its small bag with a pained expression. Couldn't bear to take anything out for a long time. Forget it, I don't want your protection fee. When I refine pills later, just help me purify the pill poison like yesterday. Yi Joga felt that it was better for him to be more realistic. Pippy sauce. The fat black rat puffed out its fat chest, indicating that it still had a lot of saliva. Scram. Yi Joga let go. The fat black rat immediately ran away. Where did you get this rank 5 spirit rat? Zi Shang asked. Rank 5 spirit rat, you mean that fat black rat just now? Yi Joga expressed his doubt. How could that stupid look be a rank 5 spirit rat? Spirit beasts were much rarer than demonic beasts, and beasts that had awakened their spirit were all very intelligent. Rank 1 to 3 spirit beasts were very rare. Rank 4 to 6 spirit beasts would have their own innate abilities. Rank 7 powerful spirit beasts could even transform into a human and crush demonic beasts and humans of the same rank. N, although it doesn't look like one, it is indeed a high-rank spirit beast. Zishang only read about Old Master Su last night before he got angry, so he didn't know the origins of the fat black rat and the small bronze cauldron. It brought a small broken cauldron and came to rely on me. Yi Joga told him what happened in the demonic beast forest. Zishang carefully studied the small bronze cauldron, but unfortunately, he couldn't see anything special about it. The material used to refine this medicine is something that I have never seen before in this continent, so it shouldn't be an ordinary material. However, it's damaged too much, so if I find a way to repair it, I should be able to guess its origin. Zishang said. Who cares about its origin? It's fine as long as it's useful. Yi Joga was very busy, and he really didn't have time to investigate the origin of a rat and a small broken cauldron. These were, after all, worldly possessions. As long as they didn't pose any threat to Yi Joga, Zishang was too lazy to care about them. I'm going to refine pills, go away. Yi Joga pushed Zishang away and prepared to start refining Noble Consort Shi's detoxification pill. The black fat rat squatted beside Yi Joga and looked at the pill furnace with a serious expression. Time ticked by. Zishang was finally tired of watching. His figure flashed and he returned to the mark in Yi Joga's hand. Yi Joga didn't notice it at all. He had been paying close attention to the situation of the pill furnace. He saw that the medicinal liquid inside had completely dissolved, turning into a crystal clear light green solution. The pale green liquid became more and more viscous, and its color turned dark green, and it began to fuse into the shape of a pill. Black fatty, go! Yi Joga shouted and opened the pill furnace. The fat black rat darted over like a bolt of lightning, puffed up its cheeks, and spat a mouthful of colorless, odorless saliva towards the furnace. After the dark green liquid absorbed the fat black rat's saliva, it instantly split into two and condensed into two pills. The other pill was slightly bigger, about the size of a thumb. It was green and lustrous. It was the illusory beauty detoxification pill. The other one was only the size of a red bean. The dark red one was the pill poison. Yi Joga gave the red pill poison to the fat black rat and stored the beauty illusion detoxification pill in a jade bottle. She glanced at the darkening sky outside the window. Although it was a bit late to go to the Dongling Prince's residence, the pill had just been refined and she wanted to quickly give it to Noble Consort Shi. Yi Joga thought about it and decided to detoxify the poison as soon as possible. She believed that Dongfang Ke and Noble Consort Shi would be happy to see the detoxification pill. Yi Joga went to find Bai Songling as usual, wanting him to secretly take her into the prince's residence. When Bai Songling learned that Yi Joga had already refined Noble Consort Shi's detoxification pill, he said happily, "Your pill refining is really timely." "What do you mean?" Yi Joga didn't understand. When she went to see Noble Consort Shi, she had recovered very well and didn't need to take the detoxification pill immediately. "You don't know, but the Empress is starting to cause trouble again," Bai Songling said. It turned out that after Nurse Su disappeared, the Empress was gloomy for a period of time, and suddenly said that she wanted to help the Emperor select a female. She also said that the harem hadn't had a new person for many years, and that there was no new royal bloodline, so she wanted to open a harem selection. Those who didn't know the truth would really think that the Empress was really thinking for the Emperor. However, they didn't know that there were no less than 10 concubines in the palace who had a miscarriage in the past few years, and there were countless palace maids who had been forced to give birth. Some palace maids were forced to give birth just because they were beautiful, and they hadn't even slept with the empress yet. Under such circumstances, no one would believe that the empress would help the emperor reproduce. What did the emperor say? Yijoga frowned and asked. She also felt that the empress's actions were very strange. The emperor said that there will be a pill refining competition in a month, and we will discuss it after the competition. But what man doesn't like the harem? Bai Songling's face flashed with undisguised contempt. It seemed that he had a lot of opinions about Emperor Xianwu. What does the emperor's selection have to do with noble consort Xi's detoxification? Yijuga couldn't understand. If noble consort Xi returns to the harem, the emperor will definitely not select a concubine, Bai Songling said with certainty. You already said that men like the harem, and noble consort Xi returning to the harem doesn't conflict with the emperor's selection. Yijoga felt that Bai Songling valued noble consort Xi too much. If Emperor Xianwu really loved noble consort Xi that much, how could he allow her to be outside for more than 10 years? That's because you don't know what noble consort Xi means to the emperor. Bai Songling smiled and said very meaningfully. In the past, when there were imperial concubines and noble consort Xi, Emperor Xianwu never selected a concubine. It was enough for him to have 2 concubines accompanying him. Later, when imperial concubine died of illness and noble consort Xi left the palace, Emperor Xianwu started a large-scale selection. Now that noble consort Xi had returned, Emperor Xianwu would definitely not select a concubine to protect his face. Okay, you're right. Then let's go to Dongling Wangfu and help noble consort Xi detoxification now. No matter what, as long as he could make the empress unhappy, Yijoga was happy. When Bai Songling brought Yijoga to Dongling Wangfu through the secret passage of Yuwu Tea House, Dongfang Ke had just returned from the palace. Knowing that Yijoga had already refined the detoxification pill, he said very happily, Her Highness shouldn't be asleep yet. It's the right time for you to go. Although the rotten flesh on noble consort Xi's face was much better, she still refused to see guests. Other than Nanny Zhou, only Yijoga could enter her courtyard at will. Then I'll go first. After Yijoga said goodbye to Dongfang Ke and Bai Songling, he walked towards noble consort Xi's courtyard with familiarity. Chapter 113. Nanny Zhou had already known in advance that Yijoga was coming and was waiting outside the house. As soon as she saw Yijoga, she asked excitedly, Miss Yi, you came so late. Is the antidote pill already refined? Yes. Yijoga took out the small jade bottle and shook it. Thank God. Nanny Zhou's eyes moved involuntarily. Then she put her palms together and bowed to the sky. Then she bent her knees and was about to kneel to thank Yijoga. Nanny, what are you doing? Get up. Yijoga quickly pulled Nanny Zhou up. Eldest Miss Yi, you saved her ladyship's life. This old servant doesn't have anything to repay you. Let this old servant kowtow to you 3 times. Nanny Zhou was really grateful to Yijoga. If she didn't do something, she wouldn't be able to express her excitement. Nanny Zhou, in terms of age, you can be my grandmother. Isn't kneeling to me too much? Don't ever mention such words again. Otherwise, I won't dare to come here in the future. Yijoga pretended to be angry. Nanny Zhou and Mother Qing were the same kind of people. They both treated their masters like their own daughters. No matter what they did, they would do it from the master's point of view. No matter how tired they were willing to endure it. Yijoga respected such people. Okay, just pretend that this old servant didn't say anything like that. Nanny Zhou could see that Yijoga was sincere. She felt indescribably comfortable. She had been a servant all her life. Although others treated her with courtesy out of respect for noble consort Xi, no one had ever been like Yijoga, comparing her to his grandmother. She felt like drinking a cup of hot tea in winter. Her heart was warm. No wonder everyone liked such a good girl. Nanny Zhou put her gratitude in the bottom of her heart and quickly brought Yijoga into the house. Noble consort Xi was walking around the house. She was so nervous that her palms were sweating. She had thought that it would take a lot of effort to cure this disease. She didn't expect that the final detoxification would start so soon. She was surprised and didn't know what to do. Hearing the sound of the door opening, she quickly sat back in the chair with a calm expression on her face. Yi-Joga saw noble consort Shi's calm appearance and was very impressed. He bowed to her and said, "Joga greets your highness." "Juga, quickly sit." "Noble consort," she called out with a faint smile. She had been taking Yi-Joga's detoxification prescription all this time, and the rotten flesh on the right side of her face had completely scabbed over, turning into a huge black and red scar that looked like a mask. Although it still looked terrifying, it was much better than the oozing pus and rotting flesh from before. "Your Highness, are you ready?" Yi-Joga sat in front of noble consort Shi. Although she had made countless preparations for what might happen during this detoxification process. However, they couldn't rule out some unexpected situations. Noble consort Shi nodded slowly. Previously, when Yi-Joga said that the final detoxification would be as painful as death by 1,000 cuts, she wasn't afraid. Now that Yi-Joga had found a way to relieve her pain, she was even less afraid. "Okay, then let's get ready," Yi-Joga said straightforwardly. "Eldest Miss Yi, should we detoxify here or find another place?" Nanny Zhou asked in a low voice. If she wanted to change places, then she had to make early preparations. "After I feed the detoxification pill to your highness, I still need to use needles to help her detoxify. At that time, your highness may expel a lot of black toxins, so it's best to do it in the bathroom. This way, it would also be convenient to scrub. There is an independent bathing pool behind this small courtyard. Please wait for a moment, your highness and eldest Mississippi. This old servant will prepare it now," Nanny Zhou said immediately. "Okay." Noble consort Shi nodded. After Nanny Zhou quickly prepared clean towels, clothes, honey locust, and other things, she came to invite Yi-Joga and noble consort Shi over. The bathing pool was steaming. Yi-Joga stood on the soft couch beside the bathing pool and said to noble consort Shi, "Your highness, please take off your clothes and lie on it." She was going to do acupuncture later, and noble consort Shi definitely couldn't wear clothes. "Okay." Noble consort Shi took off her clothes. Nanny Zhou took out a white silk bathrobe and helped noble consort Shi change into it. She then untied her hair and loosely tied it behind her. After noble consort Shi was ready, Yi-Joga took out a big jade bottle. "What is this?" Noble consort Shi asked curiously. "This contains the blue jade seaweed I got in the demonic beast forest. Eat this blue jade seaweed first." Yi-Joga opened the big jade bottle and poured out a ball of seaweed that emitted a blue light. This ball of blue jade seaweed was 1/2 gram, which was according to noble consort Shi's weight. Taking it before this detoxification pill could achieve the effect of anesthesia. Noble consort Shi swallowed the blue jade seaweed without hesitation. After eating it, she felt a cold feeling rising from her dantian. The blood in her limbs seemed to start to stagnate. She lay on the soft couch powerlessly. Seeing that the blue jade seaweed was effective, Yi-Joga handed the detoxification pill to her. When noble consort Shi took the detoxification pill, a complicated expression flashed across her face. As long as she took this pill, she would be able to expel the poison in her body and restore her appearance. The thing she had been thinking about for more than 10 years was right in front of her, but she was a little worried. She was afraid that the effect of the detoxification wasn't ideal. Her life would be ruined just like that, and it would probably be even more difficult than it was now. "Your Highness, feel free to take it. I'm here," Yi-Joga said slowly. Yi-Joga didn't say anything to guarantee, nor did he make an expression that said you have to believe me, but noble consort Shi inexplicably felt at ease. Noble consort Shi pinched the dark green pill and put it into her mouth. She didn't know if it was the reflection of the candlelight or something else. Noble consort Shi's bright red nails suddenly flashed with a dark green light, but it quickly disappeared. Yi-Joga's heart jumped, and a message seemed to flash through his mind. But after thinking about it carefully, he couldn't think of what it was. He could only stare at noble consort Shi and observe her every move. After noble consort Shi swallowed the pill, she only felt that the illusory beauty detoxification pill dissolved in her mouth. It turned into a sweet warm current that entered her stomach and began to expel the remaining illusory beauty poison in her body. The detoxification process was like a small shovel eradicating the garbage stuck to her meridians. Although it was very painful, under the cold anesthetic effect of the blue jade seaweed, it was still bearable. Noble consort, she could clearly feel the small shovel following her meridians to her fingertips. After the illusory beauty detoxification pill touched her fingertips, it suddenly exploded with a bang. It was like a spark falling into an oil barrel. The rolling heat spread wildly along her fingertips, and she couldn't help but scream in pain. At this time, noble consort, she truly realized what the pain of 1,000 cuts that Yi Juga mentioned felt like. Chapter 114. Yi Juga looked at noble consort Shi's skin, which instantly turned as red as a cooked shrimp, and finally knew what the thought that had just flashed through his mind was. There was something wrong with noble consort Shi's nails. At this time, imperial concubine Shi's nails had already turned from bright red to a strange dark green color, but they still emitted a faint fishy smell. It was the unique smell of green toads. Needless to say, it must be the spirit doctor who gave imperial consort Shi the fake medicine. He made the green toad's poison into henna and painted it on noble consort Shi's fingernails. The green toad's poison and noble consort Shi's beauty illusion antidote were perfectly compatible. As long as noble consort Shi takes Huan Mei's antidote, the poison will immediately take effect. Because the green toad's poison was too small and it was mixed with the henna, even she had overlooked it. Yi Juga opened his spiritual eye and observed noble consort Shi's body. The meridians in her body were all blocked by the green toad's poison. If she didn't clear it, the green toad's poison would break through her body and she would die. Your Highness, you endured it. Yi Juga took out the thunderfire needle with a grave expression and used the fastest speed to insert it into noble consort Shi's body. Ever since she had unsealed the heart of the sealed tree of God to save Dongfang Ke, the thunderfire needle also had a sliver of life energy, and its effects were many times stronger than before. The red thunderfire needles with purple light fell on noble consort Shi's body like raindrops. Every time, the needles were accurately pricked into the acupoints, bringing out a little dark green blood bead. Noble consort Shi only felt the heat in her body increase as Yi Juga's acupuncture technique increased. The pain in her body continued to increase. It was simply enough to drive someone crazy. Yi Juga's face was dark, and his heart was burning with anxiety. The anesthetic effect of the blue jade seaweed didn't last long. If she couldn't force out the green toad's poison before then, noble consort Shi wouldn't be able to hold on. In this situation, the blue jade seaweed couldn't play a role. Everything could only depend on noble consort Shi's will. Yi Juga madly circulated the spiritual power in his body. The thunderfire needle in her hand flashed like a shadow, and in the blink of an eye, 81 needles fell on imperial consort Shi's body. Imperial consort Shi's entire body was covered in dark green blood beads. She looked like a bloody person. The poisonous blood soaked the hem of Yi Juga's dress, and the stench filled the bathroom. Nanny Zhou had been watching them nervously. She instinctively sensed that something was wrong with the situation. In particular, the Empress's expression was becoming more and more abnormal. She had never seen the Empress in such pain and confusion, as if she had already given up on living. Nanny Zhou's guess was right. Noble consort Shi had already given up the will to live under the torture of pain. What was the point of persevering like this? She had failed to detoxify the poison, so she had to return to her previous days of being neither human nor ghost. If that was the case, then she might as well die. Nanny Zhou was shocked. She quickly knelt beside imperial consort Shi and shouted anxiously, "Your Highness, you must not give up." Noble consort Shi shook her head unconsciously, as if saying that she could not hold on any longer. Nanny Zhou, think of a way to help the Empress hold on, Yi Juga quickly ordered. She was so close to forcing the green toad's poison out of noble consort Shi's body. Nanny Zhou immediately raised her voice and shouted miserably, "Your Highness, have you forgotten how the Empress hurt you? How can you abandon me before you take revenge?" Noble consort Shi was still shaking her head. She couldn't take revenge, so she could only let Kair do it. Nanny Zhou's face turned pale. She hesitated for a moment and finally shouted with a trembling voice, "Your Highness, even if you don't do it for yourself, you have to avenge the little master. She was killed by the Empress before she grew up in your belly. If you go like this, how can you face the little master in the underworld?" What little master? Noble consort, she unconsciously turned her head in the direction of Nanny Zhou, as if she was asking something. "When the imperial consort died, weren't you dizzy and nauseous and couldn't eat anything? Miss Yi said that you were pregnant. Later, the bleeding was not because of detoxification, but because the little master had a miscarriage." Nanny Zhou choked with sobs. "It's all because I'm useless. I didn't find out that you were pregnant and let the Empress hurt the little master." When noble consort she heard this, the veins on her palms bulged, and she suddenly grabbed the bed sheet under her. Her well-maintained long nails scraped against the bed, making a sharp sound. The longest nail even broke into two. It could be seen that she hated the Empress to the extreme. Yi Zhouge seized the opportunity and used the thunderfire needle on the last few acupuncture points of noble consort Shi. Streams of dark green poisonous blood spurted out, quickly turning bright red. Finally succeeded. Yi Zhouge's vision turned black and she almost fell to the ground. She quickly protected the bed frame and stabilized her body. She had used up too much spiritual power and had opened her spiritual eye for too long. She really couldn't hold on any longer. Your Highness, are you all right?" Nanny Zhou wanted to help the Empress wipe her body, but she didn't know where to start. She was afraid of touching the wounds on her body. "The Empress is fine. Help her wipe her body with hot water and give her 2 Peiyuan pills," Yi Zhouge said weakly with her eyes closed. "Miss Yi, are you all right?" Only then did Nanny Zhou realize that something was wrong with Yi Zhouge. "I'm fine. I'm just tired. Go and serve the Empress. I'll be fine after resting for a while." Yi Zhouge used the last of her strength to walk to the side of the chair and sat down. Only then did she feel better. Nanny Zhou used 6 buckets of hot water to wash the dirt off noble consort Shi's body. After helping noble consort Shi put on a clean bathrobe, she quickly fed her 2 Peiyuan pills. Noble consort Shi's pale face regained a trace of color. Her long and thick eyelashes blinked and she slowly opened her eyes. "Your Highness, how do you feel?" Seeing that noble consort she had woken up, Nanny Zhou's heart finally calmed down. "You just said that this consort was pregnant before. What's going on?" Noble consort Shi's gaze was like a sharp sword as she stared at Nanny Zhou. Nanny Zhou's face paled, as if someone had poured a bucket of cold water on her head. She looked at noble consort Shi's slightly red eyes and said with trembling lips, "When the imperial consort passed away, you felt nauseous and vomited because you were pregnant." Before Nanny Zhou could finish speaking, noble consort Shi suddenly sat up straight and raised her hand to slap Nanny Zhou. There was a loud smack. Nanny Zhou's wrinkled face was slapped to the side. Nanny Zhou, who was slapped, was fine, but noble consort Shi, who hit her, fell heavily on the bed. She was like a fish that had jumped onto the shore. After its death struggle, there was only pain left. "Your Highness, you can hit me and scold me, but don't hold it in." Nanny Zhou knelt beside noble consort Shi's bed and cried. Chapter 115. My child, my child. Imperial consort Shi's face was covered in tears. Her throat was choking with pain, and her entire body was trembling. She felt like her heart was being stabbed by a knife. It was thousands of times more painful than being poisoned. The child that she had missed so much was in her womb, but she had never discovered it. The child had disappeared from this world without a trace. There was no name, no memorial tablet. No one even shed tears for him. No one was grieving for him. No one was grieving for him. She had only discovered it 16 years later. How could she face her child in the underworld in the future? Nanny Zhou was sobbing at the side, and her sadness filled the entire bathroom. Yi Zhouge couldn't help but sigh. She didn't know how to comfort the master and servant. She glanced around the bathroom and found that Nanny Zhou had prepared a mirror in the corner. She probably wanted to show it to Imperial Consort Shi after the detoxification was over. The mirror was very exquisite. The back was made of red sandalwood with lotus flowers and branches carved on it. The surface of the mirror was polished from crystal. It was so bright that it could reflect one's reflection. Yi-Joga picked up the crystal mirror and came in front of Imperial Consort Shi. He said softly, "Your Highness, you can't make up for the past anymore. You can only look forward. Fortunately, no matter what you want to do now, you have the ability to do it." After saying that, he placed the mirror in front of Imperial Consort Shi. Imperial Consort Shi looked up and saw a beautiful woman reflected in the crystal mirror. Her skin was as white as jade, and her eyes were filled with pain and tears, but she was indescribably gentle and moving. Not only had she recovered her appearance, but she was even more beautiful than 16 years ago. The beauty illusion poison has such an effect. As long as one can endure the pain of being dismembered, they can obtain a new life. Yi-Joga believed that when the Empress saw the current Imperial Consort Shi would definitely hate her to the core. A new life. Imperial Consort, she muttered to herself. The beauty in the mirror's expression slowly became firm, and her eyes were burning with hatred. Her beautiful face was covered with a resentful expression, like a scorpion with a poisonous needle, ready to devour people at any time. Yi-Joga was shocked. He was really afraid that Imperial Consort Shi wouldn't be able to suppress her emotions and enter the palace to fight with the Empress. However, Imperial Consort Shi quickly recovered her normal expression. Her full lips were red like a pill, and she smiled beautifully. Dongfang Yen, Shui Mingzhu, I'm back. After saying that, he closed his eyes and fainted. Your Highness, what's wrong? Nanny Zhou hurriedly straightened her body and looked towards Yi-Joga in panic. Eldest Miss, quickly take a look at her ladyship. Yi-Joga stepped forward to take her pulse. Seeing that she was only unconscious due to exhaustion, he said, Nyang Nyang is fine. She will be fine after a nap. Nanny Zhou breathed a sigh of relief. Her body went limp and she sat on the ground. Nanny, stop kneeling. Yi-Joga helped Nanny Zhou up and advised, Nyang Nyang still needs you to serve her. If you fall, she will have no one to rely on. Eldest Miss is right. Nanny Zhou wiped her eyes and took a deep breath. She hid all the sadness, pain, and exhaustion in her heart. If it wasn't for the fact that she had been cultivating all these years and her body was still considered strong, she probably wouldn't have been able to withstand the emotional ups and downs. Nanny, send Noble Consort Shi back to rest first. I'll go out and tell His Highness, the Prince of Dongling, lest he worries, said Yi-Joga. Noble Consort Shi's poison had been completely expelled. The next step was to quietly recuperate. Okay, Eldest Miss, there is hot water and new clothes over there. You should also change your clothes. Nanny Zhou looked at Yi-Joga, who was covered in blood. Yi-Joga's figure was about the same as Noble Consort Shi's, so he should be able to wear her clothes. Okay, I'll change later. Only then did Yi-Joga discover that his body was covered in the smell of Noble Consort Shi's poison. Then this old servant will leave first. Nanny Zhou used a blanket to wrap Noble Consort Shi up and carried her back to the room. Yi-Joga simply wiped his body, picked a lotus blue dress, and put it on. Then he walked out of the courtyard. Dongfang Ke and Bai Songling were waiting outside the courtyard. Seeing Yi-Joga come out with a change of clothes and a face full of exhaustion, Dongfang Ke immediately asked worriedly, Did something happen? And something went wrong when I was detoxifying the poison. I almost failed at the last moment. It's all my fault for not checking clearly before. Yi-Joga told him about the green toad's poison. These days, she had placed all her attention on Noble Consort Shi's injuries and the poison of beauty illusion. She had indeed been negligent. The Empress is vicious and meticulous, and the poison she uses is very strange. It's normal that you didn't discover it. Dongfang Ke wasn't comforting Yi-Joga. He had been poisoned by the Empress before, so he understood her methods very well. Often, after you thought you had detoxified the poison in your body, you would discover that another poison had just started. That's right. Miss Yi, it's a good thing that you came to detoxify Her Highness. If it was someone else, they probably wouldn't even have the chance to save her. Although Yi-Joga didn't explain the detoxification process, Bai Songling could tell from her pale face and tired figure that the detoxification process was very dangerous. Just now, in order to let Her Highness persevere, I told her about her miscarriage. I'm afraid that her mood will be very bad during this period of time. You guys have to pay more attention. Yi Joga instructed. Although the poison in noble consort Shi's body had been detoxified, it was still very important to take care of her. If she didn't take care of it well, there might be some side effects. Don't worry, I'll take good care of Her Highness. Dongfang Ke treated noble consort Shi as his own family, so he would naturally take good care of her. Alright, I'll go back first. If anything happens to noble consort Shi, you guys can come and inform me. Yi Joga was so tired that it was hard for her to even speak. She just wanted to return to Purple Forest Park and have a good sleep. Songling, send Miss Yi back. Dongfang Ke instructed by Songling. Yes. Bai Songling brought Yi Joga out of the Dongling Prince's palace and personally sent her back to the back door of the Yi residence. Only then did Yi Joga enter through the back door. As soon as she entered the room, she fell asleep and only woke up at noon. Mother Qing came in a few times to take a look. Seeing that Yi Joga was sleeping soundly, she couldn't bear to wake her up. She could only order Pearl to guard the door and immediately call her if Miss woke up. After Yi Joga woke up, Mother Qing didn't ask anything and immediately prepared a table full of good dishes to serve her. Yi Joga had just eaten halfway when Pearl walked in from outside with a black invitation in her hand. She said, "Miss, this is an invitation that Lord Wan's residence just sent over." Yi Joga put down her bowl and chopsticks, took the invitation and looked at it. It was by Songling's handwriting, telling her to go to Yuwu Tea House in the afternoon. Could it be that something happened to noble consort Shi? Yi Joga didn't have the mood to eat anymore, so she changed her clothes and prepared to go out. Chapter 116. Eldest Miss. No matter how important this date is, you can't ignore your health. Mother Qing couldn't help but say. She knew that Eldest Miss, Wan Darren and Bai Darren weren't just chatting. There were other important matters to attend to. But no matter how important those matters were, they couldn't leave early and return late like this. It's fine. I'm in good health, Yi Joga said. She just missed 2 meals. She wouldn't starve to death. You're not a pill refiner from the Ministry of Justice. Why do they come to you for everything? Mother Qing muttered with dissatisfaction. Every time Eldest Miss came back from Yuwu Tea House, she would either go out to pick herbs or refine pills in the pill refining room. No matter how stupid she was, she knew that Wan Xiang and Bai Songling came to find Eldest Miss for pills. Originally, she thought that the 2 of them were good son-in-laws, but now it seemed that they weren't anything good. Helping them is also helping me. Alright, don't worry about it so much. Yi Joga changed his clothes and went out alone in the carriage. Bai Songling was already waiting in the room of Yuwu Tea House. When she saw Yi Joga, she said apologetically, "Eldest Miss, sorry for troubling you. Brother Bai is too polite. Did something happen to Imperial Consort Shi?" Yi Joga asked. Sigh. Bai Songling sighed heavily and said, "Her Highness said that she wants to return to the palace now." Now? Yi Joga was shocked. Imperial Consort Shi had just finished detoxifying last night and didn't even have the strength to speak. What did she want to do now? Yes, His Highness persuaded her for a long time, but she still insisted on returning to the palace immediately. His Highness really had no choice but to come to you for help. In fact, Imperial Consort Shi had already been making a fuss this morning. They dragged it out until now to find Yi Joga because they were worried that it would affect her rest. Alright, I'll go with you now. Yi Joga knew that the matter of the child must have stimulated Imperial Consort Shi. Right now, Imperial Consort Shi was eager for revenge and couldn't wait a second longer. It was just that with her current body, it would be extremely dangerous for her to enter the tiger's den. Yi Joga rushed to the prince's residence. Before he could take off his cloak, he was hurriedly pulled into the courtyard by Nurse Zhou. "Eldest Miss, please go and persuade her ladyship. His Highness can't hold them back any longer." Yi Joga quickly walked towards the courtyard and saw Dongfang Ke blocking the entrance from afar. Noble Consort Shi stood in front of Dongfang Quebec. Her hair was combed into an auspicious cloud bun, and she wore a golden phoenix hairpin inlaid with jewels. She was dressed in a black gold embroidered robe with phoenix patterns, and she wore red phoenix wing satin shoes. She was dressed like an imperial consort, which was enough to show how determined she was to return to the palace. Although she had applied rouge on her face, it was unable to conceal her pale complexion. Her straight back was also trembling slightly. Her voice was as cold as ice as she said to Dongfang Ke, "Move aside. Don't make this consort repeat myself. Your Highness, I can't let you go back and die like this." Dongfang Ke shook his head. He had been persuading her for a long time, saying all the good and bad things, but noble consort, she just wouldn't listen. He could only block her at the door. "You don't need to worry about my life or death." Noble consort, she's expression was fierce, and her voice was filled with blood. "You can stop me now, but you can't stop me forever. If this consort is determined to go out, it's useless no matter how you try to stop me." The Dongling princely residence wasn't completely united. If she was forced into a corner, all she had to do was shout, and a spy would immediately send the news into the palace. At that time, even if Dongfang Ke wanted to stop her, it would be useless. Dongfang Ke also knew this, so he didn't dare to be too forceful. He only persuaded, "Your Highness, even if you want to leave, you have to let young Miss Yi treat you first. There's no need. This consort will remember Joga's kindness to this consort. If there's a chance in the future, I'll naturally repay it." Noble consort, she didn't want to see Yi Joga. As long as she saw Yi Joga, she would remember the pain of losing her child. This pain deeply tormented her, and she couldn't rest for even a moment. Right now, she just wanted to immediately return to the palace and let her enemies have a taste of this feeling. Thinking of this noble consort, she no longer hesitated. She lifted her foot and walked towards the door. She made up her mind that if Dongfang Ke still dared to stop her, then he couldn't blame her for being ruthless. "Your Highness." Seeing this, Yi Joga hurriedly walked into the courtyard. "Young Miss Yi, you've finally come." Dongfang Ke couldn't help but let out a sigh of relief. "Juga." Noble consort, she looked at Yi Joga and said resolutely, "You don't need to persuade me. No matter what you say, I'm going back to the palace." "Your Highness, I'm not here to persuade you." Yi Joga had already thought of an excuse on the way here. He knew that noble consort, she had already made up her mind, so it was useless to say anything now. "It's fine if you want to return to the palace, but the inner palace isn't like the princely residences. If the Empress poisons you again, even if I have 3 heads and 6 arms, I won't be able to rush into the inner palace to save you. So please wait a few days. I'll think of a way to get something that can identify poison for you to bring into the palace. What do you think?" "That's right, Your Highness, we're going back to take revenge. We can't fall for that evil woman's tricks before we even get our revenge." Nanny Zhou also tried to persuade. She had followed the Empress for so many years and knew her personality very well. If she tried to persuade her to rest and recuperate, she definitely wouldn't listen because she had already disregarded her own life and death. But if it was under the banner of revenge, the Empress might still listen to it. Noble consort, she hesitated for a moment and said to Yi Joga, "After you think of a way, you can tell me after you enter the palace." "Your Highness, do you think I can still stay at home and think of a way if you return to the palace like this?" Yi Joga said helplessly. She could already imagine the scene of noble consort, she being poisoned by the Empress as soon as she returned to the palace. "Your Highness, sharpening the knife doesn't delay the work of cutting firewood. The arrangements in the palace aren't complete yet. It's not the best time for you to return." Dongfang Ke tried to persuade her. Noble consort, she didn't say anything. It seemed that she hadn't completely given up. Yi Joga thought about it and slowly said, "Also, Your Highness, returning to the palace like this is too degrading. In my opinion, we should have the Emperor personally go to the Imperial Temple to pick you up. We should have a 10-mile red carpet to welcome you back to the palace. Only then would we be able to slap the Empress in the face." A 10-mile red carpet was something the Empress would only have when she returned to the palace. If noble consort, she returned to the palace like this, She could indeed step on the Empress. Noble consort, she's beautiful eyes lit up and she slowly nodded. Joga is right. Since she was going back for revenge, she had to have a beautiful opening. In order to see the Empress' ugly face, she didn't mind waiting a few more days. Your Highness, then I'll send you back to the Imperial Temple tomorrow and then send someone to tell Father that you've recovered your appearance. Seeing that noble consort, she's attitude had softened, Dongfang Ke finally let out a sigh of relief. I'll write a personal letter now and have someone pass it to the Emperor. Send me back to the Imperial Temple tonight. Noble consort, she said decisively. Chapter 117. All right, Dongfang Ke nodded. As long as noble consort she didn't immediately return to the palace, everything else could be discussed. Your Highness, since we're going back to the Imperial Temple, why don't we let First Miss take your pulse again? Nanny Zhou took the opportunity to say. Sorry for troubling Joga. Noble consort, she looked at Yi Joga apologetically. She wasn't purposely tormenting him. It was just that she couldn't suppress the hatred in her heart and couldn't care less about anything else in her impulsive state. Your Highness is too polite. Yi Joga accompanied noble consort she back to the inner chamber and began to feel her pulse. Noble consort she's pulse was weak, and her internal organs had not been adjusted yet. She still needed to rest quietly. Her ladyship didn't sleep well last night, Nanny Zhou said in a low voice. Last night, noble consort, she woke up in the middle of the night. As she cried, she recalled the symptoms of pregnancy at that time and scolded herself for being careless. After crying, she began to dress up and said that she wanted to return to the palace. Could be said that she did not sleep for the whole night. Your Highness, don't worry and take care of yourself. Yi Joga looked at noble consort she and said. If he continued like this, his body wouldn't be able to take it. Joga, don't listen to Nanny Zhou's nonsense. I know my body. There's nothing wrong with it. Noble consort, she stopped. She had endured so much suffering in the past, so a night without sleep was nothing to her. No matter what, I need to recuperate first. Yi Joga knew that it was impossible for noble consort she to rest quietly. She picked up the pen and wrote a prescription for noble consort she to rest and then said seriously, Your Highness, don't blame me for speaking harshly. Food and sex are human nature. When you go back to the palace, you have to rely on this face to win over the Emperor. If you don't sleep well at night, you will easily become old and ugly. Hearing this, Imperial consort, she couldn't help but touch her face. She immediately nodded and said, I know. I'll definitely take good care of myself. She was still waiting to meet the Empress and see her regretful face. Don't worry, Miss Yi. I will make sure her ladyship takes it on time. Nanny Zhou took the prescription and decided to make it for her ladyship as soon as she returned to the Imperial Temple tonight. Noble consort, she still had to rush back to the Imperial Temple. So Yi Joga didn't say anything else and quickly took his leave. She left the courtyard and seeing that Dongfang Ke was still waiting outside, she gave him a look. Dongfang Ke tactfully brought her to the study and asked, How does eldest Miss Yi plan to help the Empress test for poison? If it's not too troublesome, can you help me get one as well? In reality, Dongfang Ke was very wary of the Empress' strange poisons that did not have strong layers. If there was a way to prevent it, it would be for the best. I need to go back and think about it. Yi Joga had only thought of it perfunctorily to appease noble consort she. He still didn't know what to do. She had never come into contact with refining weapons before, so she had to ask Zishang when she returned. Eldest Miss, if there's anything you need, please let me know. Dongfang Ke said sincerely. Yi Joga saved noble consort she, so he really wanted to pay Yi Joga's consultation fee. But giving him silver was too tacky, and giving him other things was worrying that Yi Joga wouldn't like it. I really need a spirit fruit called the Sacred Origin Fruit right now. I wonder if your Highness can help me get it. Yi Joga wanted that Sacred Origin Fruit for Zishang. Miss Yi, please wait a moment. I'll check if there are any in the storeroom. Dongfang Ke called old He over. After carefully checking the storeroom's booklet, there really was the Sacred Origin Fruit that Yi Joga wanted. Many thanks. Yi Joga received the sacred origin fruit and returned to Purple Forest Park. Then he started to call Zishang. After Zishang appeared, he circled around Yi Joga as usual. He rested his chin on her head and asked lazily, "What's the matter?" Yi Joga was already numb from being hugged by him. She didn't move and asked, "Do you have a way to make a spirit tool for noble consort Shi to identify the Empress poison? What are the benefits?" Zishang asked. "Don't ask for benefits so easily. Talking about money hurts feelings. Do you understand?" Yi Joga rolled her eyes. This sovereign only knows how to talk about feelings hurts money. Zishang bit Yi Joga's small face. The little girl was still too naive to think of using psychological methods on him. "Benefits, take it." Yi Joga wiped her face in disgust and took out a box of sacred origin fruit. This sacred origin fruit was obtained by Dongfang Ke and the Bai clan from the demonic beast battlefield. He didn't know what use it had, so he kept it in the storeroom. Zishang lowered his head and saw that there were a total of 5 thumb-sized sacred origin fruits in the wooden box in Yi Joga's hands. Although they weren't as old as the fat black mouses, they were still rare. However, the rarest thing was Yi Joga's sincerity. She had only eaten it once, but she remembered that it was good for him. Yi Joga saw that Zishang didn't make a move and thought that he didn't need the sacred origin fruit anymore. She was a little disappointed and asked, "Other than the sacred origin fruit, is there anything else that can recover your demonic power? Tell me, I'll help you look for it in the future." Instead of giving her body to Zishang every time, Yi Joga would rather work hard to help Zishang collect the things he needed. "No need, this sacred origin fruit is enough." Zishang picked up the few sacred origin fruits and placed them in his mouth. The things he needed were things that Yi Joga couldn't get with her current strength. It was already good enough that she could get a few fruits to nourish him. Then how can I refine the spirit tool that can detect poison? After eating the fruit, he should give her the answer. Refining requires a foundation. If you want to learn how to refine in a few days, you should save it. Zishang glanced at Yi Joga. It wasn't that he looked down on Yi Joga, but he was biting off more than he could chew. It wasn't the time for her to learn how to refine. Then other than refining, is there any other way? Yi Joga didn't really have to refine. She was still busy concocting pills, so how could she have the time to learn how to refine? This sovereign has a way to let your imperial consort Shi quickly learn how to identify poison. Seeing that the sacred origin fruit was enough, Zishang gave Yi Joga an idea. In this world, there's a kind of insect called the poison earth dragon. It's extremely sensitive to poison. As long as it sees poison, it will become scared and flee. You can try this. I'll look for it now. Yi Joga had also heard of the poison earth dragon. Usually, it would be used to concoct pills after it was dried and ground into powder, but it was rare to see it alive. Fortunately, some pharmacies would usually keep some of them, so Yi Joga quickly got a few poison earth dragons back. The poison earth dragon looked like a newly hatched bee larva. It was white and plump, lying motionlessly in the wooden tube. Yi Joga poured the poison earth dragon on the table, then casually took out a leprosy grass and placed it in front of it to test. This leprosy grass grew like a wheat stalk. Although it wasn't very poisonous, it was colorless and tasteless. After eating it, it would cause the limbs to be numb. It was also a commonly used herb to concoct poison pills. The poison earth dragon raised its head and looked at the leprosy grass. Then it slowly wriggled on the spot and no longer had any reaction. Yi Joga was instantly speechless. If he wanted to rely on this thing to identify poison, he was afraid that he would need someone to keep a close eye on it at all times. Wasn't this a joke? This is what you meant by, as long as it sees poison, it will become scared and flee? Yi Joga threw the leprosy grass on the table. He felt that Zishang might have misunderstood the word flee. Chapter 118. Your poison earth dragon's rank is too low. If you can find one above rank 3, it naturally wouldn't have such a reaction. Zishang said coldly. He had already given her the method. Could she blame him if she couldn't find it? Are you sure there really is a rank 3 poison earth dragon in this world? Yi Zhuge had already asked the people at the pharmacy. They said that this poison earth dragon only had 15 days of lifespan. It was impossible for it to advance. I've seen it in the monster race, Zishang said mysteriously. However, that rank 3 poison earth dragon had obtained a huge opportunity to advance. It was impossible for a small place like Thunder Country to have one. Monster race? Why don't you say Tian race? Yi Zhuge rolled his eyes. Zishang wouldn't admit that his idea wasn't reliable. He thought about it and said, "Actually, you can use this bug in another way." "What way?" Yi Zhuge asked. "Let that imperial consort she swallow the poison earth dragon. As long as she touches the poison earth dragon will wriggle in her stomach. After she spits out the poison, the chance of being poisoned will naturally decrease." Zishang felt that this idea wasn't bad. Although the poison earth dragon didn't have a long lifespan, it was cheap and easy to raise. Eating one in half a month wasn't a problem. "You want me to take this bug and let imperial consort she swallow it alive?" Yi Zhuge felt disgusted just thinking about it. It was even more impossible for imperial consort she to do such a thing. "I've given you the method. Whether she uses it or not is up to her," Zishang said coldly. "Testing for poison and also making it comfortable. How could there be such a good thing? Is there really no other way?" Yi Zhuge didn't give up and asked. "You can still learn to forge, but it will take at least 3 years. Zishang said. 3 years? Imperial consort she had probably died no less than a few hundred times. When it's a matter of life and death, who cares if she's disgusted or not? As long as it's useful. Zishang didn't like Yi Zhuge's personality. Alright. Yi Zhuge had no other way. She looked at the white fat bug on the table and went to find Bai Songling. "Isn't this the poison earth dragon? Why did you bring this bug here?" Bai Songling immediately recognized the white fat bug in Yi Zhuge's hand and asked curiously. "Cough, cough." Yi Zhuge coughed twice before saying in a serious tone, "Didn't you ask me how to help noble consort she identify poisons? This earth poison dragon is the key. I'd like to hear the details." Bai Songling said seriously with a serious expression. When he heard Yi Zhuge's method, Jun's face twitched a little, and he couldn't help but ask, "Did you just say swallowing alive?" And Yi Zhuge nodded seriously. Bai Songling couldn't help swallowing his saliva and asked, "Do you have to swallow it alive? Can't you eat it after steaming or frying it?" "No, it won't work if it dies." Yi Zhuge shook his head. What he wanted was the feeling of the worm wriggling in his stomach. Bai Songling looked at the earth poison dragon, then at Yi Zhuge, and asked with difficulty, "Are we really going to give it to noble consort she like this?" He was afraid that noble consort she would throw the worm at his face. Yi Zhuge silently placed the earth poison dragon in Bai Songling's hands. Anyway, she had already thought of a way. Whether she could convince noble consort she would depend on her. "Well, I'll try it first and see if it really works." Bai Songling sighed, resigned to his fate. It was already good that Yi Zhuge could come up with a way. They really didn't have the right to be picky. Brother Bai is a true warrior. Yi Zhuge praised him with a thumbs up. "Don't make fun of me." Bai Songling glared at Yi Zhuge snappily. Although his part-time job was a coroner, it didn't mean that he could tolerate this kind of soft and disgusting thing. Yi Zhuge looked at Bai Songling's heroic appearance and kindly comforted him. "You don't have to be so painful. This earth poison dragon is also a commonly used traditional Chinese medicine. You must have eaten it before. There's no difference." "I want to give them a bath. Can I soak it in wine?" Bai Songling asked. It didn't feel so disgusting to eat it with wine. "Yes." Yi Zhuge nodded. The earth poison dragon's vitality was actually very tenacious. It was very difficult to kill it before it died of old age. Bai Songling took out the strongest newer Hong and picked 2 earth poison dragons that he thought were the cleanest. He soaked them in the wine and then swallowed them with his eyes closed. Yi Zhuge looked at Bai Songling's Adam's apple moving and could not help but ask, "How does it taste?" "It smells like wine," Bai Songling said with a crying face. "Apart from the smell of wine, do you feel uncomfortable?" This was the key point. "It's okay. It just feels shabby and disgusting." Bai Songling shook his head. No one would feel good after swallowing a live worm. Then let's talk about it first. If you feel disgusted now, it will affect the test. Let's talk about something else. By the way, did the Bai family find the fire dragon grass? Yi Zhouge asked. No. Bai Songling shook his head and said, the warriors sent by the Bai family haven't sent back any news for a long time. I'm afraid they have died on the road. It was a journey of thousands of miles, and it was surrounded by mountains. Death was really a simple thing. Don't be too pessimistic. Maybe they were just delayed by something, so they couldn't send back the news in time. Yi Zhouge guided Bai Songling to talk about other topics. Seeing that he slowly relaxed, Yi Zhouge secretly crushed a knockout drug. Bai Songling immediately frowned and looked around. Then he asked Yi Zhouge doubtfully, do you smell anything strange? No. Yi Zhouge blinked and shook his head innocently. No, there is a strange smell. Bai Songling covered his mouth and nose, looked at Yi Zhouge's finger with sharp eyes, and shouted, did you poison it? I just crushed a knockout drug. How can you smell it? Yi Zhouge could not help but raise his eyebrows. She thought that Bai Songling would only notice it when the drug took effect. She did not expect it to be so fast. It stinks. After saying this, Bai Songling immediately vomited. Yi Zhouge immediately moved away from Bai Songling. Seeing him vomiting pitifully, Yi Zhouge did not feel sympathetic at all. Instead, she felt very satisfied. This kind of colorless and odorless knockout drug was the most difficult to detect. However, Bai Songling could immediately react, which meant that the effect of the poisonous earth dragon was very good. So she was relieved. As for how to persuade Imperial Concubine Shi to take it, Yi Zhouge also had her own ideas. I think we don't need to tell the truth to Imperial Concubine Shi. We just need to put this poisonous earth dragon into an empty pill and let Imperial Concubine Shi take it. Sometimes white lies were also necessary. Good idea. Bai Songling wiped his mouth and nodded in agreement. He secretly made up his mind that this white lie must be hidden from Imperial Concubine Shi for a lifetime. Chapter 119. Since we're going to use this poison earth dragon as a detoxification pill, then we need to cultivate a batch of good insect seedlings. Yi Zhouge predicted that he would need a lot of poison earth dragons in the future. If he always went to the pharmacy to buy them, it was hard to guarantee that no one would leak it. Our Dongling Wangfu's pharmacy has a shed specifically for raising poison earth dragons. When the time comes, just have them keep a batch of good ones. It's not something valuable anyway. Bai Songling said, ordinary poison earth dragons have a short lifespan. I want to choose a batch of good eggs to cultivate myself. Yi Zhouge wanted to cultivate poison earth dragons with a longer lifespan and greater use. No problem. I'll take you to choose now. Yi Zhouge wanting to improve the poison earth dragons was simply a good thing for Bai Songling. The Dongling Wangfu had a large herbal farm on the outskirts. In addition to cultivating poison earth dragons, they also grew many precious medicinal herbs. The head of the farm was surnamed Chun. Seeing that Bai Songling had brought the young miss of the Yi family over to choose some good poison earth dragons as medicinal herbs, he personally took them to the shed. The shed was filled with huge dustpans filled with white and fat poison earth dragons. 4 or 5 servants were constantly distributing poison wind leaves for them to eat. These poison wind leaves were the main food of the poison earth dragons. They had a gray surface and carried a bit of poison. After the poison earth dragons ate, they would spit out green saliva. This was the antidote for the poison wind leaves and also the medicinal herbs purchased by the pharmacy. Bai Songling looked at the densely packed white and fat insects and immediately felt his scalp go numb. He asked the head of the farm, "Is there anyone here who has studied poison earth dragons? Let them choose a batch first." Everyone had their own specialties. Letting them choose a batch first was better than Yi Zhouge searching through so many insects himself. Yes. The head of the farm immediately nodded and shouted towards the shed, "Little Mute, come here." Hearing the head of the farm, a skinny boy wearing dark blue clothes walked out from the corner of the shed. He was about 11 years old and had a pair of large black eyes on his skinny face. He looked especially horrifying, like a puppet. Ijoga looked at this little boy and inexplicably felt that something was wrong. He asked, "Who is this?" "This is an adopted son adopted by a distant relative of mine. He doesn't have a name, so we all call him Little Mute. Although he can't speak, he's especially good at taking care of medicinal insects. It's also partly because of him that these poisonous earth dragons can be raised so well." Manager Chun was afraid that Bai Songling would accuse him of abusing his power to take care of his relative, so he quickly explained. "All right, let him pick some good worms for me," Bai Songling said indifferently. He was so young and mute. Even if he didn't have any skills, the village could still afford to raise him. After listening to Bai Songling's words, Little Mute took a dustpan and began to select the poisonous earth dragons. Soon, he had picked more than 100 of them and filled the dustpan. "Enough," Ijoga said. She had already opened her spiritual eye to check. The poison earth dragons that Little Mute had picked up were filled with life force. They were indeed the best seedlings. Little Mute glanced at head Qin Zhuangtou. Seeing him nod, he stopped and quietly placed the dustpan in front of everyone. "This kid is interesting." Zishang's lazy voice rang in Ijoga's ears. "What's interesting?" Ijoga asked back. "You bring him back first, you'll know in the future." Zishang laughed and didn't say anything else. Ijoga was already used to Zishang's way of speaking. However, anything that could attract Zishang's attention was not ordinary, and this wooden Little Mute was no exception. Ijoga was determined to bring this wooden Little Mute away, so he smiled and said to him, "Little Mute, I'm lacking someone to help raise the poisonous earth dragons. Are you willing to help?" The wooden Little Mute was expressionless. He didn't shake his head or nod his head, as though he didn't understand what Ijoga was saying. Manager Chan knew that this kid was wooden, and was afraid that he would offend his master, so he hurriedly said, "This kid is a servant of our village. If young miss wants him, then just bring him away. There's no need to ask for his opinion. I'm asking him, not you." Ijoga was dissatisfied with the way the manager treated people like objects. "I was too talkative, please forgive me, young miss." Manager Chun was so scared that sweat broke out all over his body, and he didn't dare say anything else. Ijoga looked at the wooden Little Mute and continued, "If you work at my place, food and accommodation will be provided, and you'll be paid 10 taels of silver per month, 2 days off per month, red envelopes and festive gifts during the holidays, and if you raise him well, you'll receive a monthly bonus, starting at 10 taels of silver." These conditions were 100 times better than being a servant at the village, and even Manager Chun wanted to apply for the job. He hurriedly gave the wooden Little Mute a look, and opened his mouth to say soundlessly, "Hurry up and agree." The blockhead Little Mute slowly nodded his head. "Then go back and pack your things, you'll leave with these poisonous earth dragons in a bit." Ijoga immediately decided. After successfully abducting the wooden Little Mute, Ijoga arranged for him to live in a small courtyard behind Wanziang and Bai Songling's house. This small courtyard was originally a property under the name of the Prince of Dongling residence, and now it had been transferred to Ijoga. "Little Mute, you'll live here from now on, and someone will come over to take care of your 3 meals a day. You just need to focus on raising these poisonous earth dragons for me," Ijoga said to the wooden Little Mute. The wooden Little Mute still looked like a wooden person, and didn't respond at all. Ijoga didn't mind, and continued, "I specially called you over to raise poisonous earth dragons that have a longer lifespan and a stronger detoxification effect, so the method of raising them will be a bit different from before. First, these poisonous earth dragons have to be divided into 3 portions, and each portion will be fed with a different ingredient. You have to observe how they compare after they eat it." The ingredients Ijoga prepared were leprosy grass, red butterfly slices, and oleander. They were all poisonous herbs, and their grades were all higher than the poison windgrass. "Why go through so much trouble?" Zishang spoke again. "Don't worry about me. I just like trouble." Although Ijoga knew that Zishang definitely had a better method, he didn't have any benefits to give him, so he could only slowly explore it himself. In any case, there was no rush. "This sovereign is in a good mood today, so I'll tell you a method for free." Zishang transmitted his voice. After Ijoga heard this, He immediately asked suspiciously, "Will this really work?" "Whether it works or not, you'll know once you try." "All right, it doesn't cost me to try anyway." Yi-Joga lowered his head to look at the wooden little mute, and said according to the method Zishang taught him, "If you can help me raise better poisonous earth dragons, I'm willing to exchange a spirit beast pill for it." When the wooden little mute heard Yi-Joga's words, he immediately raised his head to look at her. An indescribable light flashed in his large black eyes, making his eyes shine like obsidian, and there was an indescribable beauty to it. However, that ray of light quickly disappeared, and it returned to its dark appearance. Chapter 120. This brat doesn't believe you. Zishang's tone had a sense of gloating. "How is that possible? My sister looks like a white lotus. Everyone should believe her." Yi-Joga put on a serious face, as if treating a patient with a hidden disease, and said to the little mute seriously, "I only want the advanced version of the poisonous earth dragon. I'm not interested in other things." The blockhead little mute still had a blank look, not knowing if he understood. However, Yi-Joga didn't have time to talk to him anymore. After telling Bai Songling to take care of the little mute's daily life, she returned to Purple Forest Park. 3 days later, Imperial Consort, she would enter the palace. She planned to first use the ordinary poisonous earth dragon to refine some poison testing pills, and wait for the little mute to refine the advanced version of the poisonous earth dragon before replacing it. The simplified version of the poison testing pill was very easy to refine. First, refine the pill, then stuff the living poisonous earth dragon into it and seal it. However, the dissolution time of this pill was very particular. It couldn't be too late or too early. It had to be dissolved the moment it entered the stomach, so that the poisonous earth dragon could smoothly settle down. Yi-Joga tried several materials and finally chose erdong, Gastrodia elata, philodendron, baiji, wolfberry, schisandra, etc. The pill made in this way was not only easy to dissolve, but also had the effect of nourishing the spleen and kidneys. After Yi-Joga ground these medicinal materials into a fine powder, she mixed it with the walnut oil, then kneaded it into a small honey pill, and finally stuffed the poisonous earth dragon into it and sealed it. Yi-Joga stopped after making 10 honey pills. It was useless to make more anyway. Zishang saw that Yi-Joga wanted to sleep, so he appeared and circled her, and teased, "Did you forget something?" "What did I forget?" Why didn't she know? "If you don't refine spirit beast pills, what will you use to exchange for the poisonous earth dragon with that little mute?" Zishang pulled Yi-Joga's earlobe with both hands, and made a fierce look. "Or do you want to eat and dash? Are you sure he can really make the advanced version of the poisonous earth dragon?" Yi-Joga let Zishang pull her ear, and continued to put the freshly made honey pill into the bottle. Of course. Zishang pinched Yi-Joga's soft earlobe and played with it happily. Yi-Joga put down the jade bottle and asked politely, "Then, I will start refining now. Can you let go of my ears?" She had already discovered that compared to violent confrontation, it was better to be more docile to solve problems quickly. All right. Zishang didn't know what to do with the obedient Yi-Joga. Although Zishang let go of Yi-Joga's earlobe, he still hugged her tightly. He was really a boneless snake. Yi-Joga was already numb from being hugged by Zishang. Dragging him along, he began to refine pills with much difficulty. Fortunately, the spirit beast pill was not difficult to refine. All he had to do was prepare the ingredients and throw them into the small bronze cauldron. Although this small bronze cauldron looked shabby, and it took a long time to refine pills, the success rate was very high. In addition, the fat black rat's saliva was 100% success rate, which saved her a lot of trouble. Why does that little mute want the spirit beast Dan? Could it be that he raised some kind of spirit beast? Yi-Joga asked. The reason why she didn't kick Zishang, who was wrapped around her body, away was partly because she wanted to get some information out of him. Look at how poor he is. Does he look like he can raise a spirit beast? Zishang rested his chin on Yi-Joga's head. This position was the most comfortable. Then why does he want the spirit beast Dan? Yi-Joga couldn't understand. This expensive spirit beast Dan was like imported cat food. Other than cat slaves who would pay tribute to their cat masters, Most people wouldn't buy it. Of course it's to eat. Zishang rubbed Yi Zhuge's head. He was so comfortable that his eyes narrowed. He doesn't have a spirit beast. It's impossible for him to eat it himself. Yi Zhuge said in disbelief. Could it be that the little mute has pica and loves to eat this spirit beast Dan? Guess. Zishang was still hanging, waiting for Yi Zhuge to state her conditions. If you don't want to say it, then forget it. Yi Zhuge wasn't going to fall for it. Other than things related to her own life, she wasn't interested in anything else. Little Zhuge is really not cute. It's getting harder and harder to deceive. Zishang's chin rested on top of Yi Zhuge's hair bun. Suddenly, he smelled a strange smell. How long has it been since you last washed your hair? Zishang asked. Not that long. At most a month. Yi Zhuge pretended to be stupid. Ever since she found out that Zishang especially liked to use her head as a pillow, she purposely didn't wash her hair, wanting to suffocate Zishang to death. Wash! Zishang couldn't bear the fact that his royal pillow was so dirty. This is my hair. This lady likes the sour smell. What's wrong with that? Very quickly, Yi Zhuge knew that going against a tyrant wouldn't end well. What do you mean by taking a bath without saying a word? Yi Zhuge, who was pulled into the bathtub by Zishang and drenched in cold water, deeply regretted it. At this moment, her entire body was drenched. Her thin clothes stuck to her body, revealing her slightly rising and falling graceful figure. Did you forget that you still owe me 2 kisses? Zishang sized up Yi Zhuge's figure with satisfaction. It wasn't in vain for him to personally help Yi Zhuge clear the meridians in her chest. I will return it to you after I change my clothes. Yi Zhuge wanted to escape. However, Zishang grabbed onto Yi Zhuge's hands and hugged onto her tightly, causing the two's bodies to become even closer. Let go of me. Yi Zhuge raised her leg and wanted to kick Zishang, but Zishang's snake tail tightly wrapped around her leg. Be good. Zishang lowered his head and kissed onto Yi Zhuge's cherry lips, then pushed Yi Zhuge onto the ground. Zishang's fierce and passionate kiss seemed as if even Yi Zhuge's soul was about to be sucked away. Yi Zhuge felt the suffocating pain. Taking the opportunity when Zishang loosened his grip, Yi Zhuge punched onto Zishang's abdomen. Zishang's muscles were definitely made of stone. They were extraordinarily hard. Naughty! Zishang's palm slid down and heavily rubbed onto Yi Zhuge's body. Yi Zhuge felt that her small chest that had just developed was about to be squashed flat by Zishang. She struggled to resist, but Zishang forcefully suppressed her. The two rolled around in the small bathtub, and even the clothes rack that was placed at the side was knocked down. Mother Qing just happened to pass by the bathtub. Hearing the sound coming from inside, she couldn't help but ask, "Who's inside?" Hearing Mother Qing's voice, Yi Zhuge immediately trembled. Both her hands grabbed Zishang's shoulders and pushed him away. Zishang followed her advice and moved his lips to Yi Zhuge's ear. He bit on her meaty little earlobe, as if he was eating something delicious. That was a very sensitive place for Yi Zhuge. A strange numbness spread from her abdomen to her limbs. Her whole body was trembling, and her voice had also become soft. "It's me. Miss, why are you inside?" Mother Qing was even more surprised. Wasn't Miss in the alchemy room? When did she come out? Moreover, she even went straight to the bathtub. I suddenly felt an unbearable itch on my head, so I wanted to wash my hair. Quickly help me prepare some hot water. As Yi Zhuge spoke, she stopped Zishang's hand from igniting the fire on her body. Chapter 121. This old servant will go prepare the hot water. Mother Qing immediately turned around and left. She felt that she was so incompetent that she didn't realize that eldest Mrs. Head was so itchy. You really can't take it anymore? Zishang whispered into Yi Zhuge's ear as he moved his evil hand. Zishang, can't you tell me in advance when you're in heat? If Yi Zhuge knew that Zishang would touch her like this if she didn't wash her hair, she would have shaved her hair. It won't be long before my estrus period. You have to quickly get used to it. Zishang said very seriously. This little girl's growth was really too slow. Who knew when he would be able to eat her? It was so hard to wait. You're really in heat. Ijoga's scalp went numb. Would her small body be able to withstand being ravaged by Zishang once? You'll know when the time comes. Zishang reluctantly rubbed Ijoga's head and returned to her mark. At this time, Mother Qing and Jinju came over with hot water and knocked on the door. Miss, the hot water is ready. Come in. Ijoga had already been ravaged to the point that he didn't want to move. Mother Qing came in and saw Ijoga's messy hair and clothes, but she didn't think much about it. You can't go into the bathroom fully dressed. After Ijoga took a bath with the help of Mother Qing and Jinju, he fell on the bed and didn't move. When he woke up, it was already dawn. Ijoga stretched his body on the bed. Suddenly, he remembered that he was halfway through refining the spirit beast pill last night. He immediately jumped out of bed. It's over, it's over. After refining for so long, it's definitely ruined. Ijoga hurriedly rushed into the alchemy room and opened the small bronze cauldron to take a look. He found 9 plump spirit beast pills inside, emitting a faint luster. They were actually grade 2 high-grade spirit beast pills. Pippi, the fat black rat, jumped onto the small bronze cauldron, puffing out its fat chest to show that this was all thanks to it. Good job, big sister will give you a raise. Ijoga gave the fat black rat a thumbs up. Pai-chan. Fat black rat did not care about wages. As long as Great King Purple Decease was satisfied, it was fine. No problem. I'll definitely put in a good word for you in front of Great King Zishang. Ijoga happily packed the spirit beast pill and put it into the bag along with the poison testing pill he refined last night. After eating breakfast, she went to find Bai Songling with the bag. You came at the right time. Bai Songling was relieved to see Ijoga. What? Ijoga asked curiously. That little mute locked himself in his room last night and hasn't come out yet. He didn't eat his dinner or breakfast. I wonder what's going on. Bai Songling was worried that little mute was carrying out the secret method that Ijoga was teaching him, so she didn't dare to act rashly. Ijoga couldn't help but raise his eyebrows. Could that little mute really be cultivating an advanced version of the earth poison dragon? Go and have a look when you have time. I have to go to the prince's mansion now, so I won't be able to accompany you. Bai Songling's own matters were quite urgent. Bai said. Bai, Ling Bai Tian. Go. Bai Zit. Yil Bai XT go. Bai Chen. Shao deep inside. It. C. Quiet inside. Ijoga opened it. She found a lot of food. The staple food for breakfast was porridge, steamed buns, side dishes, corn, sweet potatoes, and other coarse grains. There were also 2 fragrant meat pies which smelled very good. It could be seen that Bai Songling cared a lot about this little mute. Ijoga put the lid on the food. She coughed. What are you doing in there, little mute? The wooden door creaked open. Little mute's snow-white face peeked out from behind the door. His lips were red, and his 2 large black eyes looked even more horrifying. Ijoga didn't know why. Every time she saw little mute, she got goosebumps. She pointed uncomfortably at the food on the table and said, You must be hungry. Let's eat something first. Little mute didn't look at the food. Instead, he waved at Ijoga and asked her to follow him inside. Ijoga had no choice but to follow little mute into the dark room. The deeper she went, the more she felt something was wrong. The tip of his nose kept smelling a strange odor. It smelled a little like blood, but not quite. She took a closer look. She found a jar in the corner of the dark room. That strange smell was coming from it. Little mute stood next to the jar. He pointed at it, indicating Ijoga to see. Ijoga was also curious, so he lowered his head to look at the jar. Suddenly, a small black shadow shot out from the jar. It was heading straight for her. Just as she was about to make a move, little mute was faster than her. He reached out and pinched the black shadow. That black shadow immediately softened like a noodle. Only then did Ijoga realize that it was actually a black poisonous earth dragon. It was bigger than a normal earth poison dragon. It was black and exuded a strong life force. It was not an ordinary creature, but it was different from a normal earth poison dragon. Little mute handed the black earth poison dragon to Ijoga. He opened his left hand. It was clear he wanted to trade with her. How did you raise this earth poison dragon? Yi-Joga took out the spiritual beast pill and handed it to him. Little Mute took the spiritual beast pill and smelled it. His eyes immediately flashed with surprise. It seemed he was very satisfied with the spiritual beast pill Yi-Joga gave him. He carefully put the pill away. He drew a circle in front of his chest to show that it was a dustpan. He then made an action of pouring the dustpan into the jar. Yi-Joga understood. You poured the dustpan's earth poison dragons into the jar and let them kill each other. In the end, there was only this one left, right? No wonder this earth poison dragon looked so strange. It turned out it was refined using this kind of cruel method. Little Mute nodded. He then turned around and left the room. He opened the mahogany food box and began to eat. Yi-Joga looked at him wolfing down the food. She couldn't help but have a question in her heart. Where did this little Mute come from? The method, he said, was the same as raising goo in Miaojiang. Only a special secret technique could do it. Moreover, looking at the way he grabbed the earth poison dragon with his bare hands, this child was definitely not as simple as an orphan. Little Mute didn't care about Yi-Joga's probing gaze. After he finished eating, he wiped his mouth with his sleeve and went back to the small dark room to rest. Wait! Yi-Joga called out to him. She asked, Can you continue to raise this kind of earth poison dragon? Little Mute stretched out his thin fingers. He made a meatball. He meant that as long as you have the spiritual beast pill, you can come and exchange it at any time. Chapter 122. I don't want this kind of poisonous earthworm. I want the normal kind. Although the poisonous earthworm produced by this method was powerful, the side effects were too great, and it was also harmful to nature, so it was not a long-term solution. Little Mute hesitated for a moment and made a strange gesture with his hand. Yi-Joga instantly understood. You mean that method is very slow? Little Mute nodded again. It's okay. It doesn't matter if it's slow. As long as you can cultivate a poisonous earthworm that can evolve normally. I can exchange it for 5 spirit beast pills, Yi-Joga said generously. Little Mute's eyes lit up, and he nodded vigorously. If you need anything, just let me know. I will try my best to satisfy you. Yi-Joga was going to put in a lot of effort this time. Little Mute did not stand on ceremony, and after gesturing with his hands, he felt that it was not enough, and used his finger to write the words, Second Stage Black Housefly, on the brown table with tea. You want to use the second stage black housefly as supplementary feed for the poisonous earthworm? Yi-Joga asked curiously. Black housefly was a kind of spirit herb that looked like a fly, and was usually used to treat festering wounds. Although it was a spirit herb, it grew easily, and it was not expensive, so she could afford it. Little Mute nodded again. Your handwriting is not bad. Who taught you? Yi-Joga pretended to ask casually. These days, very few commoners were literate. Even Chun Zhuangtou could not read, let alone Little Mute, who was an orphan who was adopted. Little Mute's face flashed with vigilance, and he frowned and wrote another line of words. Didn't you say that you were not interested in anything other than the poisonous earthworm? A small line of words, with a questioning tone, as if he had been deceived. Don't worry, I was just asking casually. All right, go to sleep first. I will have someone send the black housefly over later. Yi-Joga immediately gave up on investigating Little Mute. Who cares where he came from as long as he could work? Little Mute carefully looked at Yi-Joga, and after confirming that she did not have any ill intentions, his little eyebrows relaxed, and he turned around and floated into the house. Yi-Joga wiped off the writing on the table, picked up the food box that Little Mute had eaten, and prepared to find Bai Songling to help him get the black flygrass. Unexpectedly, as soon as she walked to the door, Bai Songling rushed in like a whirlwind and pulled her out. Oh no, the demon poison in His Highness's body is acting up. Come with me to have a look. Let's go. Yi-Joga threw the lunchbox aside and immediately rushed to Prince Dongling's mansion with Bai Songling. Dongfang Ke was lying on the luxurious bed with his eyes tightly shut. His handsome face was deathly pale and his lips were icy purple. His entire body was as hard as ice. Yi placed his finger on Dongfang K's wrist and felt as though he was touching a block of ice. He was completely unable to feel the pulse. She opened her spiritual eye to take a closer look and discovered that the spiritual energy in his dantian was in a mess. She could faintly see a blurry white spider. Without a doubt, the Snow Spider King's poison in his body had taken effect. Yi raised his head and asked by Songling, "Why did Her Highness suddenly act up?" Today, His Majesty summoned His Highness into the palace to ask about noble consort Shi. Yi suddenly acted up after returning. Bai Songling gritted her teeth and said, "That evil woman, the Empress, must have done something. Her poison is unpredictable and His Highness was unable to guard against it." "Then why didn't you let His Highness take the poison-testing pill before entering the palace?" Yi asked curiously. If Dongfang Ke had swallowed the poison earth dragon before entering the palace, it would have served as a warning. "I forgot." Bai Songling wanted to keep it a secret, so she didn't mention it to Dongfang Quebec. "Why didn't you forget about yourself?" Yi glanced at Bai Songling. "AI, don't talk about me. I'm already regretting it to the point that my intestines are turning green." Bai Songling had a look of regret and she almost knelt down to beg brother Yi "Help me take off His Highness's shirt first." Yi prepared to use acupuncture to save him. Bai Songling directly took off Dongfang Ke's shirt. Dongfang Ke's skin was smooth and firm, and the shape of his muscles was very beautiful. It was obvious that he had trained and was very pleasing to the eye. Yi silently glanced at him, then took out the Thunderfire needle and pierced it into Dongfang Ke's acupuncture points. However, it was repelled by a strange cold energy. Yi didn't believe it and secretly increased the input of spirit energy. The Thunderfire needle glowed with a faint purple light as it pierced Dongfang Ke's body. Although the needle was successfully pierced in, if she had to use spirit energy for every needle, she probably wouldn't be able to last until the end. Bai Songling saw Yi strange expression and hurriedly asked, "Eldest miss, what's wrong?" "His Highness's cold poison is too powerful. I can't completely remove it." Yi shook his head. With her current spirit energy, she couldn't completely remove the cold poison from Dongfang Ke's body. "Then what should we do? Even the commonly used medicine can't suppress the cold poison in His Highness's body." Bai Songling looked at Dongfang Ke anxiously. She had a feeling that he would die in the next moment. Yi suddenly thought of the poisonous earth dragon goo that little Mute had just cultivated. This thing had a strong ability to expel poison, so it might be able to cure Dongfang Ke's poison. There was no other way, so he could only give it a try. Chapter 123. Yi heart tightened. The lightning fire needle spat out the last bit of spiritual energy to firmly suppress the spider image. The poison earth dragon parasite took the opportunity to completely devour the spider image, and then it stopped moving. The Snow Spider King's poison wasn't ordinary. Even if the poison earth dragon parasite killed it, it would just perish together. At this time, Dongfang Ke also spat out the last mouthful of poisonous blood. There was still a dried-up poison earth dragon parasite in the bright red blood. "Done." Yi immediately put away the needle. She weakly leaned against the bed frame, then took out the spirit recovery pill from her bag with trembling hands. Bai Songling very perceptively helped her take out the spirit recovery pill and poured a cup of hot water for her to consume. After Yi ate the spirit recovery pill, he finally felt some strength in his body. However, his right hand was so sore that he couldn't lift it. "Are you all right?" Bai Songling asked with concern. If anything happened to Yi he wouldn't be able to absolve himself. "I'm fine, just tired." Yi swung his sore right hand. This acupuncture was even more tiring than the time with noble consort Shi. It was a huge loss. Bai Songling let out a sigh of relief, then looked down at the poison earth dragon parasite's corpse and asked, "Eldest miss, has His Highness's poison been cured?" "For now, the remaining poison has been forced out, but to completely cure it, we still need to find fire dragon grass. Otherwise, the remaining poison will slowly corrode his spine like before, making it impossible for him to walk." The poison earth dragon parasite only cleansed Dongfang Ke's meridians, but it couldn't remove the root cause. Bai Songling heard Yijoga's words and found a very important point. You said the remaining poison will slowly corrode his spine like before, making it impossible for him to walk. Does that mean he can stand up and walk now? Of course. There was no poison in Dongfang K's body now. Not to mention standing up and walking, he could even run a lap around the city. Great, this is great. Bai Songling was so excited that his face turned red. He wanted to rush up and wake Dongfang K up to tell him this good news. His Highness will wake up in the time it takes to drink a cup of tea. Find someone to help him tidy up. Yijoga glanced at the naked Dongfang K, who was covered in blue blood. He looked like he had been ravaged. Bai Songling only cared about taking off her clothes. She simply called the butler Uncle He over. Uncle He had been waiting outside the entire time. When he heard that the poison in his Highness' body had been completely removed and that he could now stand up and walk again, he almost knelt down to thank Yijoga. Then let's wait outside. Big brother Bai, come with me, Yijoga said to Bai Songling. Okay. Bai Songling also wanted to ask Yijoga about the black poisonous earth dragon, so she brought her to the hall. Yijoga didn't hide it from him and told him that the poison earth dragon was cultivated by Little Mute. However, the method of cultivation was kept secret. I didn't expect this Little Mute to be so talented. Bai Songling's eyes lit up, and he immediately made up his mind to go back and investigate where this talent came from. Yijoga indicated that it was not her who asked Bai Songling to investigate. However, speaking of investigation, Yijoga also thought of something. How's the investigation of 7th concubine going? I've checked. The 7th concubine in your mansion has a normal background. There's nothing wrong with her. Are you sure she's really a spy sent by the Empress? Bai Songling asked. I'm not sure. Yijoga was just suspicious. Recently, 7th concubine's side was very quiet. She didn't send anyone to the watering room anymore. She had secretly investigated Yuan Yang, the maid who rummaged through the garbage, and found that she just wanted to take some things from the mansion to help her sick mother. She knew nothing about 7th concubine. By the way, are Su Yufeng and her daughter still making trouble? Bai Songling rarely gossiped. After old Master Su fell, the two of them became well-behaved. They are around my father every day and have no time to trouble me. Yijoga said faintly. The Su family blamed Su Yufeng for bringing old Master Su, who had just come out of seclusion, to the Yi family to make trouble, causing trouble for them. Su Yufeng didn't have the backing of her maiden family. She could only put all her attention on the child in her belly and Yi Yuxuan. Yi Shanshan was now smart. Besides practicing alchemy every day, she went to communicate with the crown prince. Yi Mansion was unprecedentedly peaceful. Su Junqing is also very well behaved. Bai Songling said with some pity. He needs human blood to practice the bewitching skill. He won't be well behaved for long. Yijoga said and thought of something. Brother Wan and Yi Yu went to Hepu County for a long time. Did they find the evil practitioner? She had been busy with Imperial Concubine She's affairs during this time and didn't have time to ask this. They have found a lot of important clues in Hepu County. It has been preliminarily confirmed that the evil practitioner is a middle-aged man. It is said that he is dressed like a scholar and looks very gentle and polite. Is there a portrait? Yijoga asked. Wan Xiang and others are looking for a painter to copy, but the paintings are not very similar. Bai Songling shook her head. This kind of person without specific facial features and only temperament was the most difficult to copy. It's a pity. It would be good if the portrait could be posted on the Imperial Notice. These days, people still had to rely on the Imperial Notice if they wanted to know anything. Xiang has informed all the county governments to post the Imperial Notice. Let the people be careful of this evil practitioner and watch their daughters well. They can't let them talk to strange men. It was said that after the Imperial Notice was posted, people were in a panic. Those who had daughters at home kept a close eye on them and didn't dare to let young girls go out alone. Very good. I believe it won't be long before Brother Wan and others find the whereabouts of the evil practitioner. Yijoga was very satisfied. Yes, But the most important thing now is the matter of Her Highness returning to the palace. The black poisonous earth dragon has been detoxified for Her Highness. Can you let little Mute cultivate another one? Bai Songling had just seen the power of the black poisonous earth dragon. If imperial concubine, she could take this and return to the palace. She would definitely be able to sweep away all the various poisons of the Empress. I'll ask him later. Yi Zhouge also felt that it would be better for imperial concubine she to eat this. Can you let him make a few more? Bai Songling wanted to keep one for herself. This kind of thing is not easy to get. Although little Mute looked very relaxed, Yi Zhouge still felt that it was not so easy to raise such a thing. Just let him try. Bai Songling said unwillingly. What's there to try? You don't have to enter the palace. The Empress can't poison you. At worst, you can just wait until you enter the palace and take an ordinary poison testing pill in advance. Yi Zhouge put the poison testing pill he refined last night into Bai Songling's hand and told him that little Mute wanted to use the black flygrass to cultivate the poisonous earth dragon. No problem. Leave this matter to me. Bai Songling immediately agreed. It was just some black flygrass. There were plenty of it in the pharmacy under the Wangfu. Chapter 124. His Highness should be waking up soon. Let's go back. Yi Zhouge estimated that 10 minutes had passed. Let's go. Just as Bai Songling led Yi Zhouge out of the hall, they saw Dongfang Ke and Uncle He walking towards them. You can really walk, Bai Songling exclaimed in surprise. Although she had heard Yi Zhouge speak of it, she was still very shocked when she saw it for herself. Dongfang Ke nodded slightly towards Bai Songling, but his eyes were fixed on Yi Zhouge. His deep eyes carried undisguised gratitude. If the Empress knew that your Highness had benefited from a disaster and recovered, she would definitely go crazy with anger. Yi Zhouge laughed. That's right, noble consort, she has also recovered. This is truly a double blessing. Bai Songling nodded repeatedly. Dongfang Ke had originally wanted to bide his time and hide his injuries, but after hearing Yi Zhouge's words, he immediately nodded. I will tell Imperial Father this good news. He had endured for so long, it was time to retaliate. Then I must quickly refine 2 more poison testing pills for you and noble consort Shi. Although the poison in Dongfang Ke's body had been cleared, eating another one could still suppress the spread of the Ice Spider King's poison. Right, hurry up. This matter cannot be delayed. Bai Songling nodded repeatedly. What poison testing pill? Dongfang Ke asked suspiciously. Yi Zhouge and Bai Songling glanced at each other, both deciding to keep this matter a secret. As a result, Yi Zhouge said, It's the kind of spiritual pill that I told noble consort Shi about last time that can help her detect poison. Alright, I still have things to do and will be leaving first. If you have anything else, come find me. Yi Zhouge was afraid that Dongfang Ke would pursue the matter further and quickly ran back to the courtyard to order 2 poisonous earth dragon parasites from Little Mute. Little Mute was extremely enthusiastic about this order and immediately had Yi Zhouge bring him back to the previous manor to choose another batch of ordinary poisonous earth dragon parasites. The next morning, he gave the 2 poisonous earth dragon parasites to Yi Zhouge and obtained 2 spiritual beast pills. Yi Zhouge stuffed the poisonous earth dragon parasites into the pills and had Bai Songling give them to Dongfang Ke and noble consort Shi. In a single night, the news of Dongfang Ke's recovery spread throughout Shangjing, and the imperial harem was no exception. Within the Fengyi Palace, the main hall was brightly lit. However, the eunuchs and palace maids were not present. Only a black-clothed and masked man was kneeling in the center of the main hall. The Empress sat on the phoenix throne with a frosty expression on her face. She stared coldly at her secret guard and asked, How did that bastard Dongfang Ke suddenly walk? I'm still investigating, but I haven't found out who cured him yet, the dark guard quickly replied. Then continue to investigate, the queen said calmly. Actually, she was not very concerned about Dongfang Ke's situation. So what if he could walk? The Snow Spider King's poison was not that easy to cure. She was more concerned about another question. You said that the bitch imperial consort she has recovered her appearance? And the emperor is going to the imperial temple to take her back to the palace? Yes, the emperor has scheduled to go to the imperial temple to offer incense in person tomorrow and bring imperial consort Shi back. The secret guard nodded. That bitch can actually recover her appearance. A ferocious expression flashed across the empress' usually dignified face. Even the fine lines at the corner of her eyes appeared. She didn't kill imperial consort Shi back then because she wanted to see how long the emperor could pamper imperial consort Shi's disgusting rotten face. She didn't expect imperial consort Shi to be so decisive and leave the palace before her face rotted. From then on, she avoided Xian Wu emperor. It had been 16 years. She thought that imperial consort Shi was hiding in the imperial temple to wait for death. She didn't expect that she would come back one day. Your Highness, what should we do now? The secret guard asked carefully. The emperor's matter was very well hidden. They didn't get the news in advance. It was too late to ruin it now. Humph, if she wants to return to the palace, then let her. I want to see how long she can be so arrogant. The empress clenched her fists, her red nails digging deep into her flesh. She could defeat imperial consort Shi once, so she could defeat her a second time. Since that bitch wanted to come back to die, then she would fulfill her wish. But this time, she definitely wouldn't let that bitch live. The secret guard didn't dare to reply and continued to quietly kneel in place, waiting for the empress's next order. The empress quickly regained her normal expression and asked the secret guard, "Is there still no news of Nurse Su?" "No." The secret guard shook his head. The empress frowned. Ever since Nurse Su went out of the palace to kill Yi Joga, there was no news of her. On the contrary, Yi Joga recovered his appearance in the demon beast forest, returned home in style, and even hooked up with the Gong family. The empress suspected that the Gong family had secretly helped Yi Joga get rid of Nurse Su, so she didn't dare to act rashly. When did Su Hansen say he will enter the capital? The empress asked again. Su Hansen was Nurse Su's Shixiang. This revenge could only be taken by him to the Gong family. Anyway, she didn't want to intervene. Su Darren said he hasn't played enough yet. He still wants to wait a few more days. The secret guard hesitated for a moment before continuing. This subordinate saw Su Darren in Hapu County. He killed several more women. This subordinate burned the station to stop the letter sent to the Ministry of Justice. These brainless lunatics. The empress hated those evil cultivators the most. They didn't know how to wipe their mouth after eating. Although the people they killed were all lowly people like ants, it would still be difficult to clean up the mess if the news spread. Nevertheless, no matter how angry she was, she still had to clean up the mess. Bring 2 more people to Hapu County and tell him about Nurse Su's death. Tell him to go to the capital immediately. The empress ordered coldly. Yes. The secret guard nodded and immediately rushed to Hapu County after leaving the palace. It was late at night in Hapu County. In an uninhabited remote house, the trees in the yard were withered and emitting a moldy smell. Yi Yu stood in the shadow against the wall. He tried his best to relax his body and let his spiritual power flow smoothly. During this period, he and Wan Ziang had been tracking down the evil cultivator and finally found where he stayed. Today, they were going to set a trap to catch him. Because the evil cultivator was very sensitive to spiritual power, Wan Ziang was hiding 2 streets away. The strategy that he discussed with Wan Ziang was to try their best to keep the evil cultivator occupied and wait for him to come to support. Although the evil cultivator was slightly stronger than Nurse Su, ever since Yi Yu cultivated the technique given by Yi Joga, his hiding ability had greatly improved. Especially after refining the Yin Qi that was unique to evil cultivators, he could even become one with the shadows. He was confident that he would not be discovered in advance by the evil cultivator, who was an advanced spiritualist. Just as Yi Yu was constantly adjusting his state, a green figure flipped over the wall of the house and quietly landed in the courtyard. Chapter 125. Yi Yu squinted his eyes and saw a man in a cyan robe. He had a pale face and no beard. He looked like a scholar, and he walked into the room with a black cloth bag. Without lighting up the lamp, the man poured the contents of the bag onto the bed. It was a 12-year-old girl. The little girl was chubby, and her skin was fair and tender. She was wearing a pink jacket with a small golden lock on it. It was obvious that she was from a rich family. "Humph, you stupid mortals. Do you think you can stop me from cultivating by posting the imperial list? That's ridiculous." The man sneered. His fair and gentle face became very distorted in the moonlight, and his eyes were glowing with a faint red light. He roughly tore the little girl's clothes apart and lowered his head to bite her neck. At this time, a cold light full of killing intent suddenly attacked him from behind. The man was shocked and instinctively mobilized his spiritual power to protect himself. Unfortunately, it was too late. The fierce attack pierced through his back before his protective spiritual light appeared, and blood splashed out. The man suddenly turned around and waved his palm at the attacker, but he found that there was nothing behind him. A shadow assassin. The man's face darkened, and his eyes were covered with a layer of red light. He searched the room carefully, but found nothing. It was impossible. His ghost eyes were very sensitive to spiritual power. How could he not find this shadow assassin? He immediately turned around and grabbed the little girl. He sneered and said, "Get out of here, or I'll kill this little girl." There was still no movement in the empty room. The man reached out his hand and grabbed the little girl's slender neck. His eyes were fixed on the corner of the room, so he didn't notice that the shadow of the little girl was changing. Yiyu hid in the shadow of the little girl and secretly controlled the little girl's body. When the man was not paying attention, he once again used the skill he had learned after advancing to the next level to attack the man's chest. Puppet kill. The man focused all his attention on the outside, and he didn't expect that the hostage could attack him. When his chest was pierced by the strange shadow again, the man was shocked. He was seriously injured twice in a row, and he was scared out of his wits. The scariest thing was that he still hadn't discovered where the enemy was. In his panic, he did not dare to stay any longer. He threw the little girl aside and ran away. Yiyu staggered out of the shadows. His face was as white as a ghost. The two attacks just now had exhausted all of his spiritual power. He stretched out his hand to catch the little girl, who collapsed to the ground. Fortunately, the little girl did not suffer any serious injuries. Yiyu placed her in a corner and took out one of the spirit recovery pills that Yi Joga had given him. Dense spirit energy filled his dantian. Yiyu's eyes lit up. He immediately got up and followed the aura left behind by the green-robed evil cultivator. Although Wan Ziang had told him not to act on his own, it would be difficult to find the green-robed evil cultivator in the future if he didn't chase after him now. By the time Wan Ziang arrived at the house, there was only the unconscious little girl in the house. That damned Yiyu! How dare he act on his own? Wan Ziang's face darkened with anger. Previously, he had already made an agreement with Yiyu that if they could not make the evil cultivator stay, they would wait for him to come over and think of a solution together. In the end, he actually chased after the evil cultivator himself. Yiyu's real level was only that of an intermediate spiritualist. Even with the spirit recovery pills that Yi Joga had given him, it was impossible for him to kill the evil cultivator. Wan Ziang looked around carefully, but he could not tell which direction Yiyu had gone. He could only send the little girl back to the yamen first. At this moment, two strange auras suddenly came from outside the house. Wan Ziang jumped onto the beam with the little girl and hid himself. He saw two men in black climbing over the wall of the courtyard and respectfully reporting to the house. "Sir Su, wet nurse Su is missing. The Empress invites you to the capital as soon as possible to discuss an important matter." "Sir Su? So the evil cultivator's surname is Su. He is indeed with the Empress." Wan Ziang squinted his eyes. After putting the little girl on the beam, he mobilized his spiritual power and was ready to attack. The two men in black were wondering why Sir Su did not respond. When they were about to enter the house to check on the situation, they saw two red lights flying out of the house and hit their acupuncture points. Wan Ziang jumped out of the house, only to find that the two men in black saw that the situation was not good, and had already killed themselves with the poison in their teeth. The Empress is indeed ruthless. Wan Ziang carefully examined the two men in black, although he didn't find any clues on them. but from what they said just now, he could infer that the evil cultivator surnamed Su must have gone to Shangjing. After Wan Xiang hurriedly sent the little girl to the yamen, he immediately rushed to the capital to find Yi Zhouge. At this moment, Yi Zhouge was in the Violet Forest Park concocting a bone-nourishing pill for Yi Rui. During this period of time, the little lass's body was growing and she often felt that her bones were aching. Yi Zhouge planned to refine some bone-nourishing pills for her. He didn't expect to receive an urgent message from Wan Xiang right after he finished refining the elixir, saying that Yi Yu had disappeared. Yi Zhouge didn't even have time to change his clothes and hurriedly went to the Yu Wu tea house. He saw Wan Xiang sitting on a chair. He was travel-worn, his face was full of fatigue, and there were dark circles under his eyes. It seemed that he had just rushed over from Hepu County. Bai Songling, who was sitting next to him, also looked solemn. "Why is Yi Yu missing?" Yi Zhouge sat down and asked. "After we found the evil cultivator's place, we agreed to deal with him together. I didn't expect that Yi Yu would chase after him without permission." Wan Xiang frowned. Could he have been taken away by the evil cultivator? Yi Zhouge was most worried about this. No, there was only the evil cultivator's blood in the house, not Yi Yu's. Yi Yu must have used the secret skill on the evil cultivator twice, then ate the spirit recovery pill and forced himself to chase after him. Wan Xiang recounted the scene, including the 2 men of sacrifice sent by the Empress. Why is the Empress in such a hurry to find this evil cultivator surnamed Su? Yi Zhouge thought of another question when he heard that Yi Yu was fine. What else can he do besides harm people? No, logically speaking, Yi Yu should have exhausted his spiritual power after using the secret skill twice. How can he still have the strength to chase after that evil cultivator Su? Bai Songling asked doubtfully. A normal spirit recovery pill could only restore 30% of spiritual power at most. Could it be that the spirit recovery pill that Yi Yu ate was especially powerful? Although the spirit recovery pill made by Miss Yi is only a level 2 elixir, its efficacy is comparable to a high level 3 elixir. Wan Xiang nodded. However, no matter how powerful the spirit recovery pill was, it could only quickly restore spiritual power. It could not do anything about the essence, qi, and spirit. That was why he was so worried about Yi Yu. Chapter 126. How many recovery pills do you have left? Bai Songling asked Wan Xiang. He remembered that Yi Zhouge had given him 2 bottles of this pill, but Wan Xiang had taken it all for himself. Is this the time to talk about this? Wan Xiang glared at Bai Songling. Yi Yu's life and death were unknown, but this money grubber only remembered to ask about the spirit recovery pill. What did this make Yi Zhouge think? Bai Songling smiled awkwardly and said, "I'm just worried that Yi Yu's spirit recovery pill isn't strong enough, so I asked you to take one to study. You don't have to worry about that. There's absolutely no problem with the pills I've refined." Yi Zhouge waved his hand and said, "Since Yi Yu isn't injured, then he should be fine. I'll use the secret signal to contact him later." She was very confident in Yi Yu's ability to protect himself. That's good. In addition to worrying about Yi Yu's safety, Wan Xiang was also worried that Yi Zhouge would blame him. After all, he was the one who borrowed Yi Yu. He felt very guilty for not being able to return him to Yi Zhouge in one piece. "If there's nothing else, I'll be heading back first." Yi Zhouge spoke straightforwardly, but he was still very worried about Yi Yu. "We're done here. You can go back. If you find Yi Yu, let us know." Although Bai Songling still had a lot of questions to ask Yi Zhouge, she didn't dare to waste her time when she saw her anxious look. After Yi Zhouge left the Misty Rain tea house, he returned to the Purple Forest Park and changed into his nocturnal clothes. Then he went out to look for Yi Yu. According to Wan Xiang, the evil cultivator with the surname Su should have escaped back to Shangjing and was likely to find the Empress. Yi Zhouge searched around the palace but did not find the Yi family's secret signal. Finally, he found a clue at the city gate. Following the signal that Yi Yu left behind, she finally arrived near the entrance of the Su family mansion. Why did Yi Yu come here? Was he chasing after the evil cultivator with the surname Su? Or did he come to find Su Junqing? Yi Zhouge looked up and saw red lanterns hanging in the Su family mansion. The bright candlelight illuminated the entrance very brightly. Although it was already dark, there were still many carriages parked in front of the gate. They were all here to visit Old Master Su. Although Old Master Su fell into a coma after coming out of seclusion, his spirit master cultivation was still there. Those who wanted to suck up to the Su clan still came in an endless stream. There were people who gave him elixirs, folk prescriptions, and wandering doctors. In short, there was everything. She hadn't visited him since he fainted for so long. Yi Jioga turned invisible and nimbly jumped over the wall to enter the Su family's residence. She glanced around and found that the small building in the middle was the brightest. There were many servants going in and out. It should be the residence of an important person, so she quietly walked towards it. Yi Jioga's guess was right. This was Old Master Su's residence. At this moment, Old Master Su was lying on the bed with his eyes closed. His complexion looked good and he looked like he was in deep sleep. The members of the Su family surrounded great-grandfather Su's bed and served him personally, showing their filial piety. Su Junqing was also at the side, and his handsome face was full of worry. Yi shi yu tian. Shang for him. Yi qiu for Yi. Su, Yi. Xiao Yi song Su to you. Why? Do you feel sorry for him? Zishang asked. Why would I feel sorry for him? Yi Jioga wanted the old man to die. Then why are you asking? Zishang didn't understand. Yi Jioga didn't appreciate his help. I'm worried that you'll be exposed. Yi Jioga rolled her eyes. Although Zishang's demonic technique was well hidden, it was hard to guarantee that no one would notice. You should worry about yourself. Zishang's voice was cold. This idiot was questioning his ability. She didn't know what was good for her. What do you mean? Yi Jioga wanted to ask, but Zishang ignored her. A fat middle-aged man said to Su Junqing, Junqing, your grandfather has been unconscious for so long. Even the doctors in the palace can't tell. What should we do? This man was Su Junqing's father, Su Yongming. Although he was the eldest son of the Su family, his aptitude wasn't outstanding. He was also very mediocre. If he didn't have a capable son like Su Junqing, he would have been suppressed by his siblings. Father, don't worry. The doctors have already seen him. They said that grandfather is fine. He will wake up after a while. Su Junqing still had the appearance of a modest young master. I hope so. Su Yongming wrinkled his face. He looked even older than Old Master Su, who was lying on the bed. He looked like a good-for-nothing. Su Junqing's eyes flashed with disgust and disdain, but he quickly lowered his eyes. He used the excuse that he had to entertain guests and left the courtyard. He walked to a place where there was no one. His refined and handsome face immediately became very ugly. He punched the rock on the rockery and shattered it. Ever since grandfather fainted, the Su family was in a mess. That useless father only knew how to sigh. Don't look at the Su family's beautiful appearance. In fact, it was already very dangerous. The people outside used the excuse of visiting to find out about Old Master Su's condition. If the Su family showed the slightest weakness, they would immediately rush up and bite the Su family into pieces. Although he told the outside world that his grandfather had advanced too quickly and was in a deep sleep, Dongfang Ke was secretly manipulating the public opinion. He said that the Su family coveted Yun Tianwei's wealth and wanted to kill Yi Jioga. That was why they provoked Yun Tianwei's friends to attack his grandfather. Now, many people were secretly saying that the Su family deserved it and were waiting to see them become a joke. Su Junqing thought of those cold words and his chest started to heave up and down. But he quickly calmed himself down. There was no use thinking about it now. He had to quickly become stronger, to the point where no one would dare to offend his Su family. Su Junqing thought of this and hurriedly arrived at a remote house in the Su family. Yi Jioga secretly followed behind him. She jumped onto the roof and lifted the tiles to look down. She discovered that it was a very simple house. After Su Junqing entered the house, he lifted up a lotus painting on the wall and pressed down on a brick behind it. The wall flipped backwards, revealing a dark room. A faint light was revealed, causing Su Junqing's shadow to grow. Yi Jioga squinted her eyes. she discovered that Su Juanqing's shadow was a little strange. She immediately opened her spiritual eye to take a look and almost cursed it out loud. Yi Yu, that extremely daring fellow, was actually hiding in Su Juanqing's shadow. He was simply playing with fire. Su Juanqing did not expect that there would be someone hiding in his shadow. As long as he looked carefully, he would immediately discover it. Chapter 127. At this moment, Su Juanqing didn't notice anything unusual and stepped into the secret room. Yi Yu hid in his shadow and followed him in. Yi Zhouge looked at the closed secret door and her heart jumped to her throat. That evil practitioner was probably in the secret room. If Su Juanqing talked to him about the process of getting injured, he might guess Yi Yu's special ability and Yi Yu would be in danger. But if she barged in now, she might miss some secret. She swayed left and right and couldn't decide what to do. Forget it, she would give Yi Yu the time it takes for a joss stick to burn. That was also the longest time Yi Yu could stay invisible. If Yi Yu didn't come out by then, she would think of a way to barge in and save him. But it wasn't wise to fight Su Juanqing head-on now. She had to use some tricks. Yi Zhouge sneaked into Old Master Su's courtyard to make some arrangements before returning to that room. The 30 minutes was getting closer and closer. Yi Zhouge was considering whether to go in and save him now when the door of the secret room opened. Su Juanqing walked out with a faint smell of blood. Yi Yu was still in his shadow, but it didn't look good. Yi Zhouge could feel that Yi Yu's invisibility ability was about to disappear, and he was in danger of being discovered at any time. Su Juanqing seemed to have noticed something and his footsteps started to slow down. Although there was no expression on his face, his eyes showed that he was in a state of alertness. At this moment, there was a sudden commotion in the Su family. Fire! Fire! Following that, a pillar of fire shot into the sky from Old Master Su's residence. It looked especially terrifying. Su Juanqing's expression changed and immediately rushed towards Old Master Su's residence, fearing that the last life-saving charm of the Su family would be harmed. Yi Yu took the opportunity to escape from his shadow. Let's go! Yi Zhouge jumped down from the house and rushed out of the Su family as fast as she could while holding Yi Yu's hand. Su Juanqing rushed to Old Master Su's courtyard. He found that the flame was just a bluff. It was just a corner ignited by kerosene and had been extinguished by the servants. He secretly cursed and immediately returned to that remote house. He carefully checked the inside and outside of the house, but didn't find anything unusual. He pondered for a moment, then took out a small porcelain bottle, opened it, and blew on the ground. A layer of red powder fell to the ground, revealing 2 footprints, one big and one small. It was obvious that a man and a woman had stopped here just now. Su Juanqing's expression was solemn as he sprinkled the red powder on the floor of the darkroom. This time, there were 2 footprints of slightly different sizes. One after the other, it was simply a matter of time. One of them was his. The other, doubtless, lurked in his shadow. Shadow assassin? Su Juanqing narrowed his eyes and muttered to himself, I didn't expect that kid Yi Yu to advance so quickly. I've underestimated him. However, this kid actually dared to come looking for trouble with me. He's courting death. Yi Yu had already seen the scene in the secret room, so he had to kill him to silence him. Also, the woman who took him away must be his accomplice. He had to find her too. After Yi Zhouge brought Yi Yu away from the Su family, he originally wanted to bring him back to Purple Forest Park, but Yi Yu refused. Eldest miss, it's not convenient to go to your place. Let's go to my place. Yi Yu bought a small courtyard on the North Street, and only he lived there. It was indeed more convenient than the Yi residence. Yi Zhouge and Yi Yu returned to his courtyard. You're going to die. You actually dared to sneak into the Su family. What if Su Juanqing found out? Yi Zhouge fiercely scolded. Su Juanqing had an intimate relationship with Sister Yi Yu before, so he might have already learned about the Yi family's cultivation technique from her. As long as he thought about it carefully, it would not be difficult to discover the secret of Yi Yu advancing into a shadow assassin. I'll be careful next time, Yi Yu weakly said. His face was pale, and his eyes were black as if he had been beaten. His body was on the verge of collapse, and it was obvious that his spirit had been overdrawn. Seeing him like this, Yi Joga could not bear to continue scolding him. He took out a bottle of Peiyuan Dan and stuffed it into Yi Yu's hands. "Quickly eat it." After Yi Yu swallowed the Dan, he immediately felt his whole body relax, and the exhaustion he felt began to subside. He silently put the jade bottle into his clothes. The eldest Mrs. Pills were all good, and he must cherish them. Seeing that Yi Yu had recovered, Yi Joga asked, "What did you see when you followed Su Junqing into the secret room?" Yi Yu's face was solemn, and he slowly said, "I saw the corpse of that evil cultivator called Su Hansen." "Corpse? What do you mean? That evil cultivator was killed by you?" Yi Joga raised his eyebrows and asked, "Didn't they say that the evil cultivator was an advanced spiritualist? Even if Yi Yu's sneak attack was successful, he would not have killed him." "I didn't kill him, it was Su Junqing," Yi Yu said word by word. "Su Junqing?" Yi Joga was shocked, and he asked, "Why did he kill that Su Hansen? Weren't they together?" They were indeed together. That Su Hansen was Su Junqing's senior brother, but when Su Junqing saw that his senior brother was injured, he did not want to save him. Instead, he killed him to cultivate. Yi Yu recalled how Su Junqing sucked his blood just now, and his stomach began to churn. Who would have thought that such a handsome man would turn out to be a cruel, heartless, and insane pervert? Su Junqing killed his fellow disciple. Isn't he afraid that other disciples will find out? Yi Joga felt that it was a little unbelievable. No matter how evil a cultivator was, he would not kill his fellow disciple like that. From the looks of it, Su Junqing is planning to push this crime onto someone else. Needless to say, this someone was naturally Wan Ziang. Su Junqing's wishful thinking is very good. Not only can he increase his cultivation, but he can also get rid of Wan Ziang, the thorn in his side. Yi Joga had a deeper understanding of Su Junqing's shamelessness. We must not let Su Junqing succeed. Yi Yu gritted his teeth. Unfortunately, that Su Hansen is already dead, and there is no evidence now. This is really difficult. Yi Joga shook his head. If Su Hansen's fellow disciples were here, they would definitely believe Su Junqing's words. Yi Yu was silent. He suddenly felt that him and Wan Ziang ambushing Su Hansen was simply a joke. They did not get anything out of him, and instead, they gave Su Junqing a big meal. "Don't think too much, this is not your fault." Who knew that Su Junqing would be so abnormal? Yi Joga saw that Yi Yu was depressed, so he comforted him. "No matter what, Su Hansen is dead, and there is one less evil person." Yi Yu nodded his head. He could only comfort himself like this. Compared to Su Junqing, who did things in secret, Su Hansen, who had no taboo, was more lethal, and indeed could not be left alive. Chapter 128. Brother Wan is very angry that you left the group and went after him on your own. Find a time to apologize to him and don't act on your own again. Yi Joga didn't want to leave a knot between them because of this. "I'll go find Wan Ziang later." Yi Yu also knew that it was wrong of him to act on his own. Putting himself in Wan Ziang's shoes, if Wan Ziang went after him without saying a word, he would be worried too. Also, stay away from Su Junqing during this period of time. You can't get close to him, understand? Yi Joga warned him seriously. After Su Junqing killed his senior brother, his cultivation would definitely increase greatly. It would be dangerous for Yi Yu to follow him. Yi Yu lowered his long eyelashes and didn't say anything. The clue to find his sister was still on that pervert Su Junqing. It was impossible for him to stay away from Su Junqing. Seeing Yi Yu like this, Yi Joga didn't ask anymore. Instead, she brought up another matter. "Right. Where's your Yi clan's treasure map?" Although she had made a deal with Yi Yu to get the treasure map after helping him eliminate the Su clan. But judging from the current situation, the Su clan, the Empress, and the evil cultivators behind them were all here for the treasure map. It wouldn't be suitable for Yi Yu to keep it. Anyway, she would definitely deal with the Su clan, so it was reasonable for her to get paid in advance. "It's on me." Yi Yu pulled out a red rope from his neck without hesitation. There was a black cloth bag hanging from it. He knew that he couldn't keep this treasure map. Rather than the Su clan and the crown prince taking it away, it was better to give it to Yi Joga. Even if Yi Joga couldn't help him eliminate the Su clan, she was worthy of this treasure map based on the help she had given him. Yi Joga took the red rope and opened the bag. There was a key made of bronze inside. There were some exquisite carvings on the key. It looked like an ornament. Yi Joga held the key and twisted it left and right. With a click, it was split into two. The head of the key was connected to a thin blade that shone with a cold light. The bottom was hollow, and there was a ball of silk that was as thin as a cicada's wing. Yi Joga took out the silk and looked at it. There were mountains and rivers on it. It was obviously a map. At this time, Zishang said faintly, "It's fake. How could it be fake?" No matter how Yi Joga looked at it, he felt that Yi Yu's treasure map was exactly the same as the crown prince's in terms of material, ink, and other aspects. "Do you think that I am lying to you?" Zishang's voice was somewhat cold. "You wouldn't lie to me," Yi Joga immediately said. However, she did not think that Yi Yu would lie to her. It was very likely that Yi Yu did not know that this treasure map was fake. Yi Joga thought as he looked up at Yi Yu. "This treasure map is fake," Yi Yu said in a low voice. "Why did you give me a fake map?" Yi Joga put the fake map back into the key and threw it to Yi Yu. "Eldest miss, please don't be angry." Yi Yu picked up the copper key and said in a low voice, "The fake map inside this key is a smokescreen used by the Yi family to deceive outsiders. The real map is actually in my flesh. If it's dangerous to take it out, then forget it." Yi Joga felt uncomfortable when he heard the word flesh. To her, the assassin Yi Yu was much more important than the treasure map. "It's not dangerous." Yi Yu smiled and twisted the key again. Then, he used the thin sharp blade on the head of the key to cut the inside of his arm. Then, he picked out a long strip of beeswax from his flesh and handed it to Yi Joga. Yi Joga did not take it. Instead, he lowered his head to look at Yi Yu's wound. "It's just a small wound. It's not a big deal." Yi Joga's cutting speed was very fast and precise, so there was not much blood. Only then did Yi Joga accept the beeswax. After crushing it, he took out the silk inside. This time, Zishang did not say anything. It seemed that this was the real deal. In fact, this map was very similar to the fake one from before. The only difference was that the silk used was not the same. The fake map was slightly darker in color, but it was hard to tell if they were not placed side by side. Actually, our Yi family has a total of 2 copies of the treasure map. One is with me and the other is with my sister. Only by using the cold copper plate on this key can we pick out the beeswax. Using any other method will cause the beeswax to dissolve and destroy the treasure map, Yi Yu said. This was what his father told him on the night of the family's extermination. Before this, the two of them did not know that the family's treasure map was hidden in their flesh. Hee. If Su Junqing knew that the treasure map he yearned for was with Yi Yunji, I wonder if he would regret sending her away. Yi Joga could not help but reveal a sarcastic smile. I believe that my sister will want to tell him personally. A dark light flashed in Yi Yu's eyes. Don't worry. Your sister will definitely have the chance. Yi Joga patted Yi Yu's shoulder and put away the map. Yi Yu nodded. He put the fake map back into the bronze key and prepared to hang it around his neck. At this time, Yi Joga suddenly reached out and took the fake map. He said, Wait a minute. I have a good idea. What good idea? Yi Yu asked. Later, bring this fake map to Wan Ziang and tell him that it was taken from the heretic cultivator Su Hansen. Then have him offer it to the emperor. Yi Joga moved closer to Yi Yu's ear and instructed. Yi Yu's eyes immediately lit up when he heard Yi Joga's words. Using Xian Wu Emperor to deal with the heretic cultivator was a good idea. Remember what I said. Stay away from Su Junqing so that you don't alert the enemy. Yi Joga warned Yi Yu again. I know. Yi Yu nodded. It's good that you know. It's getting late. I'll go back first. You rest well before you go find Wan Ziang. Yi Joga said as he stood up. Eldest miss, be careful on the road. Yi Yu wanted to send Yi Joga back but was refused. I have hands and feet. I don't need you to send me back. You just need to rest well. After that, he left at an extremely fast speed. Yu returned to his room but did not sleep immediately. Instead, he sat at the table and pondered. The dim yellow light shone on his smooth and beautiful face. The red mole between his eyebrows shone even more brightly. In fact, he had heard some things about Su Junqing and Su Hansen in the secret room. They both came from a heretic sect called the Bloodthirsty sect. The heretic sect was located in a mountain 3,000 miles to the west. Su Junqing had offered his sister to the sect as a tribute. Yu looked up at the dark sky palace and made up his mind. After helping Yi Joga settle the matters here, he would go there to find clues about his sister. At this time, in the Blood Cloud Peak, 3,000 miles away from Shangjing, there was a gloomy cave filled with small black lamps. There was no oil in the small lamps. Dark red candlelight floated on the lamps. At this time, a small lamp suddenly went out. The name under the lamp was Su Hansen. Chapter 129. Motherf * Kerr, even old Su died. A short man's expression changed when he saw Su Hansen's extinguished soul lamp. He immediately carried the soul lamp through one dark tunnel after another until he arrived at the door of a large cave. There were 2 guards at the door. When they saw him rush over, they smiled and said, "Skinny monkey, why are you in such a rush?" "Not good. Old Su's soul lamp extinguished," Skinny Monkey said anxiously. The 2 guards glanced at each other, their expressions somewhat solemn. One of the guards said to Skinny Monkey, "Wait here. I'll go in and report to the ancestor." "Okay." Skinny Monkey obediently waited where he was. A moment later, the guard came out and let Skinny Monkey in. Skinny Monkey tidied up his clothes and walked into the ancestor's cave with the soul lamp. The cave was extremely luxurious. There was a red carpet on the floor, and it was filled with good wine and delicacies. Night pearls hung from the ceiling. There was a large, soft couch at the top, and a beautiful woman wearing a red veil was lying on it. A skinny old man was lying on top of her, burying his head in the woman's neck and greedily sucking her blood. Skinny Monkey smelled the blood with spirit energy and couldn't help but gulp. He raised his head and peeked at the veiled woman. Her skin was as white as jade, and her facial features were exquisite. Her long eyelashes were like little fans, and there was a red beauty mark between her eyebrows. After the black-clothed old man sucked enough blood, he got up from the woman and looked at Skinny Monkey. His face was skinny like a dried corpse, and his eyes were sunken in. There was an indescribable ruthlessness to him, and his body gave off a thick smell of blood. This old man was called Bloodthirsty Ancestor. He was a high-level spirit master and was only 1 step away from becoming a great spirit master. He was the most terrifying existence in this mountain. He used the bewitching art and blood spirit art to create Bloodthirsty sect. He took in many disciples and taught them evil techniques. He had them go find women with spirit roots to be his blood slaves. The veiled woman pulled up her clothes and obediently knelt by the old man's feet. Her head was still on his thigh, and she looked like a cute Persian cat. The old man stroked the woman's soft hair in satisfaction. He looked up at the Skinny Monkey and asked, "What's the matter?" "Old ancestor, Su Hansen's soul lamp has been extinguished." Skinny Monkey stepped forward and respectfully placed the soul lamp on the table in front of the old ancestor. Forefather Bloodthirsty picked up the soul lamp and glanced at it. His wizened face beamed a sinister smile as he said coldly, "Shangjing is really a place with crouching tigers and hidden dragons. 2 of my disciples died." Bloodthirsty's forefather put down the soul lamp and asked, "What did Su Junqing say?" "Ancestor, Su Junqing has sent a letter saying that a few spiritualists from the Ministry of Justice have discovered that he is collecting young girls. They have been pestering him and saying that Yun Tianwei's granddaughter, Yi Joga, is always opposing him. Thus, he wants to ask Ancestor to send a few disciples with high cultivation to support him." The thin, monkey-like person respectfully said, "Humph, he can't even deal with a few spiritualists. Su Junqing is really trash." Bloodthirsty's forefather sneered. Ancestor is right. However, Su Junqing is cultivating alone and can't receive guidance from Ancestor, so his cultivation is naturally lacking. Ancestor, please forgive him this time for the sake of his filial piety. After all, his status in the Su family is quite beneficial to our bloodthirsty sect. The thin, monkey-like person flattered. Although the spiritual ladies that Su Junqing sent back were all enjoyed by the forefather, the taste of the other girls was not bad. Speaking of Su Junqing's filial piety, Bloodthirsty's forefather couldn't help but look down at the veiled beauty with a satisfied expression. He then ordered, "All right, call Lu Yunfei over. Ancestor, you want to send senior sister Lu Yunfei out?" The thin, monkey-like person was shocked. Although that woman's cultivation was the same as his, an advanced spiritualist, she was not someone to be trifled with. Most of the people in Bloodthirsty sect were men, so they usually used women's blood to cultivate. Women with spiritual roots were their favorite. For a woman like Lu Yunfei to be able to gain a foothold in Bloodthirsty sect, it went without saying how powerful she was. That's right. Didn't Su Junqing want to find someone with a high cultivation? There is no one more suitable than Lu Yunfei. Bloodthirsty's forefather waved his hand and said, "Go quickly." Yes. The thin, monkey-like person quickly retreated. Not long after, a girl wearing a pink dress walked in. She looked to be around 16 years old and had a cute appearance. When she smiled, there were 2 dimples on her face. When she walked, she bounced up and down like an innocent girl. What orders does Ancestor have for Lu Yunfei? Lu Yunfei blinked her big eyes and asked Bloodthirsty's forefather. Su Hansen and Nanny Su's soul lamps are extinguished. Go to Shangjing and refine the people who killed them. Then help Su Junqing finish the task I gave him. Also, bring back that girl called Yijouge. She is Yun Tianwei's granddaughter. She must taste good. Bloodthirsty's forefather revealed a gloomy expression. He couldn't help but rub the veiled woman's hair a little harder. Meow. The veiled woman suddenly let out a meow. Then, she hit Bloodthirsty's forefather unhappily and turned her head away. "Little treasure, it's my fault. I was too engrossed in my thoughts and accidentally hurt my little treasure." Bloodthirsty's forefather wasn't angry when she hit him. Instead, he smiled and coaxed the veiled woman. The veiled woman slowly turned around and rested her head on Bloodthirsty's forefather's thigh. Her watery eyes met Lu Yunfei's. Lu Yunfei looked at the red mole between the veiled woman's eyebrows. She suddenly pointed at her and said to Bloodthirsty's forefather, "Forefather, after I bring back that Yijouge, can you give her to me?" "You want her?" Bloodthirsty's forefather asked curiously. "Yes, I like her face and that red mole. I want to peel off her skin for my collection." Lu Yunfei revealed an innocent smile. "You just like to collect the skin of beauties." Bloodthirsty's forefather smiled lovingly. Then he nodded and said, "When you finish your mission and come back, I should have sucked dry her spirit blood. Then you can have her." "No, if you suck dry her spirit blood, she'll become trash. Why would I need to peel her skin?" Lu Yunfei pouted and moved her feet. She looked like she didn't want to wear anything. Okay. I won't suck anymore. You can have it all." Bloodthirsty's forefather was very lenient to his capable subordinates. "Okay, then it's settled." Lu Yunfei bowed slightly and winked at the veiled beauty. She smiled and said, "Be good and wait for me to come back." The veiled woman didn't react from beginning to end. It was as if she didn't understand what they were saying. Her misty eyes didn't have any light at all. Lu Yunfei didn't care. She waved at the veiled woman and skipped out of the room. She looked in the direction of Thunder Country and revealed a bloodthirsty smile. She said darkly, "Yijouge, right? I want to see what you can do." Then, her figure flashed and disappeared. Chapter 130. Yijouge didn't know that a perverted woman was thinking about him. By the time she returned to Purple Forest Park, it was already dawn. She slept until noon. When Mother Qing came in to serve, she couldn't help but mutter, "Miss, why do you have to go out at night to do something?" "Of course it's something important. Don't ask." Yi Joga doesn't want to bring outside matters into Purple Forest Garden. Mother Qing only needs to help her manage the courtyard. Alright. Mother Qing saw that eldest young miss didn't want to talk about it. So she changed the topic and said, Eldest young miss, Yudi and Huadai's aptitude is pretty good. This old servant intends to let them officially cultivate. What grade of bone-opening medicine do you think is better? Bone-opening medicine was the first step of cultivation. A good bone-opening medicine could stabilize a cultivator's meridians, and in the future, cultivation would be twice the result with half the effort. However, good bone-opening medicines were not cheap. Normally, it would be good if a large family could buy a set of middle-grade medicine to nurture their own subordinates. There's no need to buy them. I'll concoct the bone-opening medicine for them. Yi Joga had a pretty good impression of these two maidservants. Although she doesn't have a spiritual root, she can still be a good helper to Mother Qing if she cultivates well. After all, Mama Qing was old, and Yi Joga wanted her to enjoy her old age in peace. Then this old servant will thank you on behalf of the two young maidservants. Mother Qing said with a smile. In her heart, eldest young miss was an even better alchemist than master. To be able to have the eldest miss personally concoct the bone-opening medicine, it was truly a great fortune. Call Huadai and Yu Dai in. I'll check their bones first. Yi Joga had to examine them properly before he could concoct the bone-opening medicine. Yes, this old servant will go and call them in. Mother Qing happily went out and called Huadai and Yu Dai in. When the two maidservants found out that the eldest young miss was going to personally concoct the bone-opening medicine for them, their faces were filled with unconcealable excitement. Yi Joga helped them to check, and he knew what was going on. In fact, the materials needed for the bone-opening medicine were very simple. They were all medicinal herbs used to temper the muscles and bones. The difference was in the dosage and the combination of certain medicinal herbs. For example, Huadai had a small frame but a lot of muscles. The amount of atractylodes macrocephala needed was relatively small, and some peony skin was also needed to increase bone density. The jade butterfly was the exact opposite of the flower butterfly. It had a large frame and less muscles. He needed to increase the dosage of atractylodes macrocephala and add some green bamboo leaves to strengthen his muscles. At this moment, Yi Joga still didn't know that the bone-opening medicine he made for Yudai and Huadai almost killed them. With an idea in her mind, she quickly wrote 2 prescriptions for Mother Qing and asked her to pick up the medicine. Mother Qing happily put away the prescription. She planned to go get the medicine later and find a good day to open Huadai and Yudai's bones. Yi Joga was still thinking about what he had discussed with Yi Yu last night, so he quietly went to Yi Yu's courtyard. However, he found that Yi Yu was not there. Instead, Wan Xiang and Bai Songling were there. Are you here for Yi Yu, young mistress? Bai Songling asked. Yeah. Where did he go? Yi Joga asked curiously. I don't know. We're waiting for him too. Bai Songling rolled his eyes and asked Yi Joga with a smile. Did you know that Yi Yu brought a treasure map to us last night? I know, I was the one who asked him to take it. Yi Joga also smiled and said, a treasure is a crime. Yi Yu and I are not people who do great things. It's best to give this treasure map to the emperor. Bai Songling didn't believe Yi Joga's nonsense. If she was not a person who did great things, who else could do great things? Wan Xiang said seriously. I have already handed the treasure map that I seized from the evil cultivator Su Hansen to the emperor. The emperor should be very excited. Yi Joga said clearly. The crown prince kept the treasure map in the dragon and phoenix jade pendant. It meant that he and the empress had been hiding this matter from the emperor. Now that she exposed the matter, she believed that the crown prince and the empress must be very nervous. Yes, the emperor has ordered the Ministry of Justice to thoroughly investigate the case of the evil cultivator harming people. There will be a big reward for catching the evil cultivator. Previously, the people of the Ministry of Justice didn't support Wan Xiang to investigate the evil cultivator. They felt that it was a waste of energy. Now that the emperor had issued an imperial edict, the people of the Ministry of Justice were eager to make a contribution in front of the emperor. With a big reward, Su Junqing will definitely not dare to be arrogant this time. Yi Joga was happy when she thought that Su Junqing was going to be in trouble. Now that Emperor Xian had personally given the order, as long as they found evidence that Su Junqing cultivated evil arts, they would destroy his reputation. Leave Su Junqing's matter to us. The alchemy conference is going to be held in the Medicine Refinery Valley. What do you plan to do? Bai Songling asked. Nothing. Yi Zhouge had never been interested in the competition. She preferred to quietly do research and concoct pills. I heard that the winner of this competition will be rewarded with an alchemy furnace from the weapon refining sect. It's worth 30,000 gold coins. Bai Songling felt that it was a pity that Yi Zhouge didn't participate. In order to attract more alchemists, Emperor Xianwu had always wanted to raise the standards of the Thunder Country's alchemy competition. Therefore, he put in a lot of effort this time. 30,000 gold coins? Yi Zhouge's eyes lit up and said without hesitation. Okay, I will participate. Although she hated competitions, she didn't hate receiving awards. Other than the Thunder Country's alchemists, there will be many alchemists from other places participating in the competition. When the time comes, the trade fair will be very lively. You might be able to exchange for something good. Bai Songling revealed another piece of information. He and Dongfang Ke were very concerned about this alchemy competition. They hoped to find out more about the fire dragon grass from the alchemists who came from all over the world. After all, they needed the fire dragon grass to completely eradicate the poison in Dongfang Ke's body. Okay, let's go take a look. Yi Zhouge was very interested in the trade fair. She could sell the blue jade seaweed that she had collected at the bottom of the lake. Oh right, your father, Grandmaster Yi, is one of the judges for this alchemy competition. He has a spot that can be guaranteed to the last round. Do you want to ask him? Although Bai Songling was very confident in Yi Zhouge's alchemy skills, it would save a lot of effort if he could be guaranteed a spot in the last round. There's nothing to ask. He will definitely give the spot to Yi Shanshan. This was a definite thing. Yi Zhouge didn't care about that spot. As long as Yi Yuxuan didn't bother her, she would be happy. Do you want to ask the Prince of Dongling to help you get a spot? Bai Songling asked. Although it was difficult to get a spot in the alchemy competition, it wasn't impossible as long as one worked hard. There's no need to go through so much trouble. I'll just kill my way in. Yi Zhouge waved her hand. If she couldn't even pass the first few rounds, how could she bring the 30,000 gold cauldron home? Chapter 131. The first few tests weren't very difficult. There shouldn't be a problem. Bai Songling told him some news about the alchemy competition. Yi Zhouge remembered it very carefully. After talking about the alchemy competition, Bai Songling thought of something else. By the way, Imperial Consort, she wants to invite you to the palace in 3 days. Why does she have time to see me? Yi Zhouge raised his eyebrows and asked. Ever since Emperor Xianwu welcomed Imperial Consort she back with a 10-mile red carpet. He spoiled her to the core and even wanted to build a new palace for her. However, Imperial Consort she insisted on living in Jinshou Palace. So Emperor Xianwu had the Ministry of Works work day and night to repair Jinshou Palace. During this period, he arranged for Imperial Consort she to live in the side hall of his palace. This kind of love was unprecedented. Now people in Shangjing were talking about it. Her Highness misses you very much. If it wasn't for so many things before, she would have invited you to the palace long ago. Bai Songling said. When Imperial Consort she first entered the palace, it was indeed very messy, but now that Jinshou Palace had been repaired, she had time to invite Yi Zhouge to the palace to talk about the old days. Thank you for your love. Is she living well in the palace? Yi Zhouge asked with concern. Although everyone said that Imperial Consort she was the most favored in the palace, it still depended on whether the Empress was up to no tricks. Very good. Since Her Highness returned, the Emperor hasn't stepped into the Empress Fengyi Palace. Bai Songling knew that Imperial Consort she could hold the Emperor firmly. Her Highness is in the limelight, but didn't the Empress say anything? Yi Zhouge asked strangely. This wasn't in line with that vicious woman's usual behavior. Why not? The second day after her return, the Empress poisoned her. Fortunately, she discovered it in time. Not only did the Empress's scheme fail, but she was also defeated by her. Bai Songling looked at Yi Zhouge gratefully. If she hadn't discovered the effect of the poisonous earth dragon, imperial consort, she probably wouldn't have escaped the Empress's hands. Oh, how did she defeat the Empress? Yi Zhouge asked with interest. Ask her after you enter the palace. Bai Songling smiled mysteriously. She believed that the Empress would want to tell Yi Zhouge this good news personally. All right. Yi Zhouge knew that Bai Songling was tight-lipped. He would never ask about things that he didn't want to say. Wan Xiang quietly listened to their conversation. Suddenly, his expression changed. He waved his hand toward the left corner and shot out a red spirit light. He shouted, "Who is it? I should be the one asking who you are," Yi Yu said in an annoyed tone as he revealed himself. These fellows had occupied his courtyard and even wanted to kill him. Was there any justice in this world? Where did you go? Yi Zhouge saw that Yi Yu was still wearing night clothes and couldn't help but frown as he asked, "You couldn't have gone to find Su Junqing, right?" "I didn't go to the Su family. I just went to the Crown Prince's residence to see if he colluded with Su Junqing recently," Yi Yu said. The Crown Prince rarely stayed in the Eastern Palace. He usually stayed in the Crown Prince's manor outside. "What did you discover?" Yi Zhouge asked. The Crown Prince is in charge of the alchemy competition this time. He has been very close to Yi Shanshan recently. If you participate in the alchemy competition, you have to be careful of those two. When Yi Yu came in, he heard Yi Zhouge talking about the alchemy competition. Even if I don't participate in the alchemy competition, I will still be careful of those two. If the Crown Prince dared to make a move, Yi Zhouge would definitely make him lose a mouthful of teeth. Yi Yu also knew Yi Zhouge's ability, so he didn't say anything more. He looked at Wan Xiang and Bai Songling. "Why did you come to find me? I originally wanted to ask you about the treasure map, but there's no need for that now." Yi Zhouge had already told Wan Xiang what he wanted to know. He was still worried about the Ministry of Justice, so he pulled Bai Songling to leave. Before leaving, Bai Songling repeatedly reminded Yi Zhouge not to forget to go to the palace to see Imperial Consort Shi. Yi Zhouge said that he would definitely go to the palace on time. After Wan Xiang and Bai Songling left, Yi Yu said to Yi Zhouge, "According to my investigation, the alchemy competition has always been held in Shangjing. This time it has been held in the Medicine Refining Valley. Furthermore, the Crown Prince volunteered to do it. I always feel that it's strange." "It is indeed a bit strange." Yi Zhouge frowned slightly. The Crown Prince had always thought highly of himself and had never personally arranged such things. "Keep an eye on the Crown Prince. If there are any abnormalities, report to me immediately." In any case, the danger of keeping an eye on the Crown Prince was much lower than that of keeping an eye on Su Junqing. "All right." Yi Yu nodded. After sending Yi Zhouge off, he snuck into the Crown Prince's residence. At this time, the Crown Prince was in the Fengyi Palace reporting to the Empress about the preparations for the alchemy competition. "Mother, everything in the Medicine Refining Valley has been prepared. We just need to wait for the alchemy competition to start," the Crown Prince respectfully replied. He had been busy with this matter during this period of time. He had only hurried back when he heard that Dongfang Ke, that bastard, had actually recovered from his injuries. Those court officials who had once wanted to support Dongfang Ke were beginning to stir. If it wasn't for his mother telling him that Dongfang Ke had been poisoned by the Spider King's poison and that there was no cure, he really wouldn't have been able to sit still. The Empress was wearing a long robe embroidered with phoenix feathers and sat upright on the phoenix throne. Her usually dignified and virtuous face was completely gloomy, as if she hadn't heard the Crown Prince's words. The Crown Prince stealthily glanced at the Empress. After thinking for a moment, he cautiously asked, "Could it be that Mother is angry on behalf of noble consort Shi? Humph, is that slut worth this consort's anger?" The Empress's thin eyebrows jumped, her killing intent overflowing. "Mother is right. She's just a slut. So what if she has temporarily obtained Imperial Father's favor? As long as Mother uses a few methods, you will definitely be able to make her die without a burial." The Crown Prince tried to curry favor with the Empress. In these past years, There had been too many women who had mysteriously died in the palace. Even Dongfang Ke had not been able to escape his mother's poison. Thus, he was very confident in his mother. Unfortunately, no matter how he asked, his mother was unwilling to tell him just where she had gotten those mysterious poisons from. The crown prince felt that it was a bit of a pity. If he could also grasp the source of these poisons, then it would be easy to take care of those people he didn't like in the future. Shut up. The empress suddenly slammed the table, the anger on her face deepening. The crown prince's words had stabbed right into her sore spot. The poisons that had once been effective were now completely ineffective in front of noble consort She. She had even turned the tables on them. The empress could only hope that Su Hansen could bring her something new. She hadn't expected that idiot to be killed by the Ministry of Justice before even entering the capital. He had even exposed his identity as an evil cultivator, and even the treasure map was known to the emperor. Mother, please calm your anger. I was wrong. Although the crown prince didn't know what he had said wrong, it was always right to quickly admit his mistake. The empress's chest heaved slightly, but she quickly restrained her anger. She looked down at the crown prince and said, "Bring Su Junqing into the palace tomorrow. This consort has something to ask him." She could only rely on Su Junqing to contact the bloodthirsty sect. Chapter 132. Mother, if you have anything to say, just let me convey it. Why do you have to see that despicable person? The crown prince hated Su Junqing to the core. Don't make me say the same thing twice. The empress's tone was cold and her sharp eyes were frightening. The crown prince's heart skipped a beat. He quickly cupped his hands and said, "I don't dare." "All right, you may leave." The empress waved her hand impatiently. She had been hiding her relationship with the bloodthirsty sect from the crown prince because she didn't want him to get involved. The disciples of the bloodthirsty sect were crazy and had no bottom line. They might kill themselves one day. If she hadn't wanted to deal with Bai Linglong and her son and that bitch imperial consort she wouldn't have done this. It was all those damned guys' fault. The crown prince saw the empress's ferocious expression and didn't dare to ask more. He quickly left the palace and went to the Su family. "Welcome, crown prince. Please forgive me for not going out to greet you." Su Junqing bowed respectfully. The crown prince glanced at Su Junqing and said in a condescending manner, "You may rise." "Thank you, crown prince." Su Junqing straightened up. His handsome face was full of smiles. He didn't feel humiliated at all. "Humph. This kid really knows how to act." The crown prince snorted in his heart and stepped back. He then said arrogantly, "Mother wants to see you. Tomorrow, pretend to be a little eunuch and follow me into the palace." Actually, with Su Junqing's identity, he could enter the palace openly. But the crown prince wanted to humiliate him this way. Which man in the world would be willing to pretend to be a eunuch? Su Junqing's eyes flashed coldly, but he quickly concealed it. He continued to ask respectfully, "May I ask why the empress summoned me into the palace?" "Enter the palace when I tell you to. Why do you ask so many questions?" The crown prince narrowed his eyes. His sharp gaze was quite similar to the empress's. "I overstepped my bounds. Please forgive me, crown prince." Su Junqing quickly bowed and apologized. "Okay, you prepare well. The imperial palace will send someone to pick you up tomorrow." The crown prince was too lazy to talk to Su Junqing, so he left after saying this. After Su Junqing saw the crown prince off, his handsome face immediately darkened. The empress must have summoned him because of Su Hansen and the exposure of the treasure map. The situation in Shangjing had been complicated recently. The Ministry of Justice was arresting heretics everywhere. Since they couldn't catch the evil cultivator, they just randomly grabbed people to be their scapegoats, causing him to be unable to continue his business of selling virgin girls. Seeing that the delivery time was approaching, he began to worry. On the surface, he was the disciple of bloodthirsty ancestors' disciple. He was only a disciple of the bloodthirsty ancestors' disciple. Su Junqing didn't just want to cultivate. He also wanted to create a tense atmosphere in Shangjing, so that Forefather Bloodthirsty would send more disciples with higher cultivation bases. This way, he could not only complete the ancestor's task, but he could also use to eliminate Wan Lord. He didn't know that the ancestor, if it was a useless idiot like Sue Hansen, then don't blame me for using it to practice. Unless those people of Sue, his senior brothers and sisters and Kuden. Unless ancestor, then ancestor not. Sue either. The next day, the crown prince sent someone to pick up Su Junqing, but he didn't let him be a eunuch. The next day, the crown prince sent someone to pick up Su Junqing, but he didn't let him disguise himself as a eunuch. No matter how much the crown prince wanted to humiliate Su Junqing, he didn't dare to do so in front of the empress. The empress didn't sleep the entire night. Her face was gloomy as she sat on her throne like a statue. The palace maids and eunuchs of Fengi Palace were so scared that they didn't even dare to breathe. The entire palace was as quiet as a tomb. It was only when the crown prince brought Su Junqing into the palace that it became lively. The empress saw that Su Junqing's expression was much better. She found an excuse and had the crown prince, the palace maids and eunuchs leaving only Su Junqing for questioning. The crown prince didn't expect that the empress wouldn't even let him stay. Although he was unwilling, he didn't dare to disobey the empress's orders. He could only blame this on Su Junqing. This subordinate greets the empress. Su Junqing respectfully bowed to the empress. At ease, the empress raised her hand and went straight to the point. This consort needs a poison that can kill noble consort Shi and Dongfang Quebec. What does the empress mean? Didn't Su Mommy give you a lot of poisons? Su Junqing asked curiously. Su Mommy was an expert in poisons. After following the empress for so many years, she should have a lot of poisons in her hands. Those poisons are useless against that bitch, noble consort Shi, the empress said fiercely. She had tried all the poisons in her hands in the past few days. Not to mention noble consort Shi. She couldn't even poison Zhou Mami and Hong Xiu to death. She used to control the entire harem with these poisons, and everyone's life and death was in her hands. Now that she had lost this reliance, she was extremely unwilling and urgently wanted to take it back. It seems that noble consort she had a great opportunity and found a poison-repellent treasure. Su Junqing was very confident in the poisons refined by the bloodthirsty sect. Ordinary people wouldn't be able to resolve them. It is indeed possible. In fact, the empress also had such doubts and had already secretly sent people to investigate. However, Hong Xiu's defenses were too strict, and her people couldn't enter Splendid Palace to search at all. If only Mommy Su was here, she would definitely be able to help her investigate these matters clearly. Other than poison, the second thing the empress wanted was a helper like Mommy Su. Thus, she said, "Have the bloodthirsty sect send another person for me. Empress, you also know that there are very few women in our sect. It's already very good to find a Mommy Su. It won't be easy to find another suitable person in a short period of time," Su Junqing said while shaking his head. He was telling the truth. The remaining women of the bloodthirsty sect were all perverts, and it was impossible for them to serve the empress. What's so difficult about it? After a while, I'll let the emperor select women. I can help you get any kind of woman you want. If these aren't enough, I can also send people to look for them among the people. Now that you're being watched so closely by the emperor, I'm afraid it won't be easy for you to do anything. With my help, I guarantee that you'll get half the result with twice the effort, the empress said hurriedly. Previously, the people of the bloodthirsty sect also wanted her to help collect girls, but she only agreed to escort them and refused to do it herself. However, she couldn't care so much now. Su Junqing was quite tempted when he heard this, but he couldn't agree on behalf of the bloodthirsty sect's ancestor. He could only say, "I'll send a messenger pigeon back to the sect to send your request. As for whether the ancestor will agree, I can't guarantee it." "No, I want you to send a message to the bloodthirsty sect's ancestor. Have him immediately send a female disciple into the palace to help me and bring a batch of useful poisons." The empress sneered and said with a threatening tone, "Don't forget about the alchemy competition. If you can't satisfy my needs, don't blame me for turning against you." Chapter 133. Is the Empress threatening our bloodthirsty sect? Su Juanqing's face darkened and his aura became sharp. You were the ones who violated the agreement first. The Empress didn't back down. Back then, your bloodthirsty sect promised me this land. Now that it's going to fall into Dongfang K's hands, you still have the face to say this? Let me tell you, if you can't satisfy my demands, I'll announce what you've done to the world. I'd like to see how your Su family can survive in Thunder Country. The Empress's face was ferocious and her eyes were filled with madness. Empress, please calm down. Su Juanqing cupped his hands and hid the killing intent in his eyes. Go back and think about whether bloodthirsty sect or Su family is more important. The Empress called in a palace maid and eunuch. After Su Juanqing left the palace with an old eunuch, he slowly relaxed his clenched fists. The Empress had gone crazy. She didn't consider how dangerous it would be for noble consort Shi to act now and Dongfang K to drag the Su family down. It seemed like she couldn't keep this chess piece anymore. She had to think of a way to get rid of the Empress and Crown Prince. Su Juanqing was about to get on the Su family's carriage when he suddenly saw a luxurious carriage used by the palace stop. Then, a beautiful woman wearing a light green dress with clouds and butterflies, and her hair was combed into a flying fairy bun, walked out of the car. Her eyebrows were deep and her eyes were like peach blossoms. Her cherry lips curled up and revealed a bright smile. She was like a fairy that had fallen to the mortal world. The surrounding people couldn't help but be attracted to her. Even the guards at the palace gate stared blankly at her. Next to this beauty was an ant wearing a red palace dress. It was noble consort Shi's main palace maid, Aunt Hong Xiu. Su Juanqing frowned. He heard from the crown prince that this Aunt Hong Xiu was an intermediate martial artist with water spirit root. She was very difficult to deal with and was one of noble consort Shi's most capable subordinates. He didn't expect her to serve that beauty so respectfully. Who was that beauty? Miss Yi, slow down. Aunt Hong Xiu's voice came from afar. Miss Yi, could it be Yi Joga? Su Juanqing couldn't help but narrow his eyes. Although he heard that Yi Joga had recovered her appearance, he didn't think that she would be any better. He didn't expect her to be so beautiful. Bloodthirsty's forefather loved this face the most. If he could help the old ancestor bring the person back, not only would he be able to get rid of a huge threat, but he would also be rewarded by the old ancestor. It was really killing two birds with one stone. Su Juanqing thought as he moved towards Yi Joga. Miss Yi, there is a fly flying towards you, Aunt Hong Xiu said sarcastically. Yi Joga raised his head in surprise and saw a handsome young man wearing a white robe embroidered with gold edges walking towards him with a warm and friendly smile on his face. Yi Joga couldn't help but frown. He didn't expect to meet a disgusting fellow like Su Juanqing here. She didn't want to talk to Su Juanqing, so she walked towards the palace gate without looking sideways. She didn't expect Su Juanqing to block her path. He smiled and said, Little Sister Joga, how come you have time to enter the palace today? When Yi Joga heard this form of address, his scalp went numb and he almost vomited. Su Juanqing, do we know each other very well? Yi Joga looked at him with disdain. The only thing missing was the words, You're so disgusting, written on his face. Little Sister Joga, are you still blaming my grandfather for being reckless? Actually, it was my aunt and cousin who didn't know any better and instigated my grandfather to go to the Yi clan. I apologize on their behalf. I hope little Sister Joga can forgive them. Su Juanqing's voice was soft and his handsome face was full of sincerity. His eyes that were looking straight at Yi Joga suddenly flashed with a strange red light. Yi Joga suddenly felt a bit dizzy. She suddenly felt that she was making a big fuss over nothing. The ones who had enmity with her were old ancestor Su and Su Yufeng, not Su Juanqing. How could she casually blame him? Little Sister Joga, you look so beautiful dressed like this. You're like a fairy descending to the mortal world. Let's get closer in the future, okay? Su Juanqing's voice was so soft that it seemed like water was about to drip out. Okay, Yi Joga replied in a daze. Su Juanqing still wanted to say something, but Aunt Hong Xiu had already noticed that something was wrong. She hurriedly said to Yi Joga, Eldest miss, noble consort, she is still waiting for you. You must not miss the time to enter the palace. That's right. Yi Joga finally sobered up a bit. Since that's the case, then little sister Joga should enter the palace first. We'll talk when we have time. Su Junqing felt that it was a bit of a pity. If they met somewhere else, he could spend more time consolidating the effects of the bewitching technique. Okay. Yi Joga reluctantly smiled at Su Junqing before walking into the palace with Aunt Hong Xiu. Eldest Miss, when did you become so good with young Master Su? Aunt Hong Xiu pulled Yi Joga to a corner and asked as soon as they entered the palace. No, I just feel that he's not bad. He's not the same type of person as Su Yufeng. I misunderstood him in the past. Yi Joga said disapprovingly. His surname is Su. How could he not be the same type of person as Su Yufeng? Didn't you hate him before? Why did you suddenly change? It can't be that you saw that he was handsome and you were smitten. Aunt Hong Xiu could understand the feelings of young girls who loved handsome men, but the cute Su Junqing absolutely could not. What are you thinking? If I'm a man who loves handsome men, then I should love Zishang. Thinking of this, Yi Joga also felt that something was wrong. Su Junqing, this pervert, kidnapped Yi Rui, betrayed Yi Yunji, and even used the blood of virgins to practice. How could he think that he was not bad? Idiot, you've fallen for his bewitching technique. Zishang's cold voice sounded. How is that possible? Yi Joga really didn't feel anything at all. This kid is talented in the bewitching technique. He's already at the second stage. It's normal for you to fall for it when you're caught off guard. Zishang said lightly. Then why didn't you warn me? Did you live in my body for nothing? Do you want to blame others for your own stupidity? Zishang deliberately didn't warn him. If she didn't let this idiot fall for it once, she wouldn't know she was wrong. Yi Joga was in the wrong and didn't dare to argue with Zishang anymore. She took out the pill bottle and swallowed 2 clear heart pills. Eldest Miss, what are you doing? Aunt Hong Xiu looked at Yi Joga strangely. What's wrong with taking pills at the slightest disagreement? Don't talk. Hurry up and eat too. Yi Joga also poured 2 clear heart pills into Aunt Hong Xiu's mouth. Then he said in a low voice, that Su Junqing just used an evil technique on me. That's why I suddenly felt that he's not bad. Fortunately, Aunt reminded me in time. Otherwise, I would have fallen for it. You're tuning in to the Dreamy Chapters YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.